Everybody, welcome on into this Central Committee stream. We are live. Oh, we have the wrong. We are live. We are live. How is everyone? Welcome in. Central Committee stream has become alive. We are here. We are awake. Birdie is 100% intentionally cutting interviews with Hassan short on purpose. He was in the guys. That was guys. No, stop saying dumb shit. Birdie was there for a rally. And then Hassan just popped on over and they made special time for him. That is a sign of close alignment, not a sign that he's not giving Hassan enough time. Do you want to know why Hassan doesn't have enough time? Can you ask somebody who actually interacts with Hassan? Do you understand how hard it is to get Hassan to do anything? Hassan was talking about how accommodating Bernie's people were. You understand that? Do you know why? Because he's the problem. We're going to be watching the Bernie Sanders interview with Hassan later. I feel like there's a lot of people out there, chat, who are addicted to social media posting in a way that is making me it's making me reevaluate. It's making me reevaluate things. And one of the things that it's making me reevaluate is I need to stop treating people like they have any knowledge or just because I need to stop assuming they know anything about politics, because I've been giving people the benefit of the doubt for so long, and it's starting to become bad. AOC is obviously going to be be a candidate for president in 2028, and I'm kind of diving into the criticisms of AOC. And while there are a few people who have like very principled, objections to her, the problem is I read the objection and I'll say, okay, I disagreed with endorsing Kamala Harris. When Bernie Sanders and AOC decided to endorse Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden because the Republican would be worse. Sometimes I agreed with that. Sometimes I disagreed with it. And the Kamala Harris example, I disagreed because I thought we could pressure her into giving concessions on Israel. We were not able to do so. So some left-wing people stuck to their guns and they said, fuck the Democratic genociders, right? And other people said, all right, I'm going to vote for Kamala, even though I don't like her. Even though I think she sucks. I think overall, Kamala Harris will be more persuadable on every issue. That was the distinction. I came down on the side of no votes for a genocider. Hassan voted for Kamala Harris. Right? So I know most people did that. Very few people did what I did. I think the third party vote was pretty fucking low, to be honest with you. And I voted for a bunch of Democrats down ballot who had bad policies too. Hey, Sinkwater, welcome back. And now I noticed something. I used to think it was the centrist who kept relitigating the Kamala Harris vote like it mattered. I thought it was centrist bringing it up and being annoying and going like, yeah, Kamala Harris. But then I realized, no, there's a bunch of leftist grifters that do that too. They're in a fucking cycle where they're constantly yelling about Kamala Harris, and it's like, bro, that was over a year ago now. Who gives a fuck about Kamala Harris? You might as well be yelling about Hillary Clinton. Oh, we've got a bunch of big sub bombs today, chat. Open Presence dropping the 100 bomb and an anonymous user dropping 100 bomb. Holy fuck. Thank you so much. I didn't even see that. Appreciate you. I don't give a fuck. In 2026, you get arrested for not liking AI slop centers. People are being arrested for speaking out against AI data centers. What the fuck?
You're arresting
What? Channel 8, note how they let the person positive go over his time. You're shameful. Shameful.
Melt ice pigs.
Everybody.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the oligarchs are exercising all their power for these AI data centers. Of course they are. You think you live in a democracy? It's a dictatorship of a bourgeoisie. Of course it is. So I'm like pondering to myself, how do I make people less stupid? I've got a lot of criticisms of AOC. It's mostly temperamental, to be honest with you. I think she should be meaner. I think she should be against the establishment harder. Like, I think she should be going after somebody like Gavin Newsom directly. They go after her every fucking day. Okay, here we go. Assad did another interview with Bernie Sanders. Okay, here's the thing. The squirrel is an example of what I'm talking about. I think the genocide in Gaza is traumatic. I'm not saying it's not. And like many of you, I spent the last 3 fucking years, and to this day, I still look at the horrifying carnage of the genocide on Gaza. Okay, and the fact that it's continuing with United States support. It's an active process. It isn't over. It's still ongoing. And the reason why it's ongoing is because of the United States of America. Both parties are currently helmed by virulent Zionists who consider Israel to be above the law. All right, that's the reality. Now, AOC endorsed Kamala Harris. She did not endorse supporting Israel with weapons. Okay, that's just not. She has never voted to give Israel money. She's voted against every appropriation to give Israel money. She has one bad vote on Israel that I object to strenuously. And she had a vote on a resolution that was condemning a mass shooting that people pretend is her like wanting to, censor people who criticize Israel. These are the 2 big votes that people talk about. I have to tell you, I criticized her for voting against Marjorie Taylor Greene's amendment. But what did Marjorie Taylor Greene do? She quit Congress. She's now irrelevant. Marjorie Taylor Greene is relevant only as much as we give her attention now. She has no power. Assad just did another interview with Bernie Sanders, did not ask a single critical question. I entirely ignored the ongoing genocide, and Bernie Sanders continued laundering of it and refused to back an arms embargo and sanctions on his precious Israeli death call. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. First of all, Bernie Sanders is irrelevant at this point. He only exists to push forward the next stage of our movement, which he's doing, and I appreciate. By endorsing anti-Zionist candidates, he just did another one in New York. I think one of the things that's happening is like when AOC went to Munich, she said some of the positions we want her to say in diplomatic speak. Meaning she didn't call them genocidal death cult pedophiles or whatever. She said we should enforce the Leahy law. Do you understand the difference between the two? You understand that being unhinged and screaming at the top of your lungs doesn't mean that's not the only way to communicate the idea that we should not give Israel weapons. And I think one of the problems that we have is everybody's so addicted to the catharsis of posting that they now think that everyone has to post like them. Not only do you have like good policies, no, you've got to post like an unhinged psycho. It's fucking weird, man. Chat. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is the gayest thing that Trump has said yet. This is something I could see Austin Show saying in 2019. Christ, listen to this.
But I was very proud of it. President Pena of Paraguay is here. President, thank you very much. Young, handsome guy. It's always nice to be young and handsome. Doesn't mean we have to like you. I don't like young, handsome men. Women, I like. Men, no, I don't have any interest. Good. That's right. That's right. Thank you very much. You're doing a great.
He's not even repressing it. He's DL. He's not even repressing it. He's just DL. Okay, chat. The reason why I stopped there for a second is I have a story that I'm not sure I want to tell. You're gay too? No, God, no. Honestly, I find men disgusting. 99% of them, I just want to fucking, because they're annoying and stupid. The thing about men is they'll dedicate their lives to video games and then be bad at them. That's the thing that's fucking crazy. That's the thing that's fucking crazy. It's like, is Austin Show the 99%? No, actually. I think Austin is maybe one of the best men on the planet. I fucking love that guy. You know what happens when you talk to Austin Show? It's fucking interesting. Low blow, dog, but you're right. I mean, like, imagine being Asmongold. You dedicate yourself to video games and you're bad at them? How are you alive? He's fucking DL. I mean, come on. I mean, there's really just no other way to put it. There's really no other way to put it. He's on the DL. Are you planning on talking about Zoran clearing that homeless camp? My anarchist friends, I need you to stop. I need you to stop. My anarchist friends, I need you to stop. If you want to talk about homeless policy from now on, I need you to send me a video of you visiting and providing mutual aid to your closest homeless camp. And then you can talk to me about homeless camps. All right. Thank you. What the policy that Zoran announced is not sweeps. That's a policy that that's a way that ultras are describing Zoran in order to try to attack him, because you hear sweeps and then your brain turns off. That's not what Zoran is doing. You got fooled by propaganda. Stop bringing it to me. It's embarrassing. It makes us both look bad. How do you guys fall for this shit? Zoran has developed a policy, homeless outreach services, to go and talk to someone weeks. That's the policy. Hey, we've got you permanent housing. Would you like to move to the permanent housing? That's the fucking plan. And people are like, no, he's doing sweeps. He's doing sweeps. No, he's not. No, he's fucking not. It's just crazy. I have a question for people, and this is a serious question, and I would like to hear your answer. If a homeless, unhoused person is on the street and they are having a meltdown and they're physically throwing human shit at people, what should happen to that person? No, I'm just curious. I'm curious. What should happen? Like right now. Let's say it was happening outside your front door right now. What should happen? Social workers, outreach. So Zoran Mamdani's plan. Exactly. I agree. Exactly. Zoran Mamdani's plan. Well, look at that. We're on the same page. I guess you're all Nazis now. Oh, people like this video. The data centers are making people sick video. Data centers are behaving like acoustic weapons. Interesting. You might watch this. I think one of the things that we have is thought terminating cliche brain. And it's something it's a reason why I've been speaking out against anarchist praxis for a long time, because a lot of the people that speak about issues from an anarchist perspective have thought terminating cliche brain, and they try to create taboo. They try to make taboo categories, and then say that a person they are trying to criticize is interacting with the taboo category. It's the only way they talk, and it's fucking garbage. And I don't know how to fix it. And it's like, obviously we're entering a period where infighting is going to happen, because the reality is that grifters don't have a way to grift off AOC yet. And I'm going to distinguish myself now by saying the reality, which is AOC is going to be a great candidate and she's going to be our girl. Or our woman. I'm going to be behind her. I'm going to just jump ahead to that part instead of grifting off of her for another year. By claiming that everything she does is a sign of her selling out and her ultimate capitulation. Only then, when she starts going viral during her campaign, are people going to turn around and be like, well, you know, actually she's gotten really good on this issue, and wow, AOC, that's pretty based what she said. And you know what I mean? Like that, I'm getting ahead of that already. I don't give a fuck. And if people leave, fucking leave. My mental health will be higher. There was a Mike for PA chatter making us look bad at Hassan's chat yesterday. I don't know if they still post here, but I think they are a BE watcher. What are you talking about? Tolerance 00. Okay, let's take a look. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong place to type that. User. All right, what did you do, Tolerance guy? Tolerance 00. He was here a couple days ago. Okay, he seems like a normal guy. What happened? He was the guy dragging Hassan for not sending oil to Cuba? Huh? I said it was good that he's doing that. Why are you guys saying Mike from PA watcher?
I'm so mad at your supposed leftist audience for giving this guy no charitability. That's not true.
Okay, chat. Pro tip. Don't post like this. Don't post like this. This is dumb as... This is annoying posting. This is annoying posting. I want to give you I never post shit like this. If you go look through my posts in Hassan's chat, you'll see I never post that. Honestly, go look at my logs. You'll see how I want you to be, which is giving Hassan good links, making intelligent arguments, occasionally doing some jokes. This isn't a Mike, like a guy. By the way, this is even though I agree with this, everybody knows Graham Plattner is the best Senate candidate. What are we kidding? Who are we kidding? Bring oil to Cuba, guys. Oil requires specialized oil tankers. And in order to bring oil that could affect a nation, it requires hundreds of millions of dollars. only a nation state or a large multinational corporation would be able to send oil. This is one of the things that I'm talking about, chat, is I assume that people have a general sense of how the world works, but I've started to realize that they don't. And I don't know how to approach it. How do I make people smarter? It's part of the, like, I think that the reason why I'm not an anarchist is because I have a sense of scale and I know how our systems of civilization actually work. I think a lot of people that consider themselves anarchists don't understand how the world works. And I mean that as gently as I can say it. I don't think they understand that, like, they're very used to be on human scaled things like going into shops or working retail. But the moment you see what the logistics that are required to do that shit, to set up a shop, it starts to become obvious that we're not going to be able to do this through individual effort. Hoscord bans for anything, even mentioning glazing mic can get you banned. Okay, just if that happened to you, just give me a screenshot. I'll send that over to Hassan. I'll get it straightened out. It's probably not true, but even if it could be true, I mean, you know, just let me know. It's all right. There's a couple mods that are schizo and they blame me for Destiny drama and for Ethan Klein drama. So, you know, I'm open about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they're just schizophrenic parasocial with Hassan. And it's very uncomfortable. I don't know what to say. They're not my mods, but it is what it is. Like, I think the majority of leftists don't understand how far-reaching and powerful the empire is. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is the port of Long Beach. Let's see if this video gives a sense of the scale.
It's the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere, and it's right here in Southern California.
And tonight, Sky 9's Desmond Shaw takes a look at this and its global influence.
Well, take a look at this massive economic engine. We are talking about the port of Long Beach, and together with its adjoining port, the port of LA, not just a vital part of the local economy, but really the economy of the nation and the world. This is the 5th busiest port in the world, the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere, and port itself opened in 1999, first with the breakwater construction. You can see there's a lot of it that has been done. The port itself opened in 1911 on about 800 acres of wetlands. It's since ballooned to more than 4 times that size, and we're talking about $100 billion worth of trade that passes through the ports every single year in imports and exports. So zoom in on all of these containers, million of them that pass through the gates of the port of LA and Long Beach every single year. More than 300,000 jobs are supported across the state by the ports of LA and Long Beach. Of course, we've been talking about the supply issues, and you still see all of these container ships that have been waiting out here to try to get into the ports. A massive
Let's stop and finally let's talk about anarchists are children. Yeah. No, it's necessary.
That is still trying to be
necessary.
Untangled. There was a lot of oil that was discovered nearby, and during the 20th century, the U.S. became a massive oil exporter because so much oil was discovered near the ports. Of course, pretty much everything passes through the ports these days, and if you're watching this on a smartphone or on a smart television, it almost certainly came through here before it arrived in your hands. Taking a look at this from Sky 9. I'm Desmond Shaw.
I mean, this doesn't even give you a set because you're looking at it from the sky. You're not even really getting a sense of it. I need people to understand. When you're like, just send oil.
A little difficult because of how large this place is. And that's why you see a lot of footage from helicopters and drones in our videos.
Right, and that's why today we brought a Mini with us to help us get a little bit more oriented.
All right, so are you flying this puppy or am I?
You, but for those of
You're already possibly thinking there's a breach in
100 acres of land and waterways. There are about 22 terminals where the dock workers are regularly working to load and unload the ships from all over the world.
Yeah, and as you look down and you see all those containers, imagine the stuff inside them, like electronics, clothing, furniture, and even food. It's taken to every region all throughout the United States and all over the world.
Sheesh, incredible view.
I think a lack of understanding of the scale of what logistics requires to keep a nation going is a sign of profound immaturity and lack of basic knowledge. So if somebody is saying to Hassan, bring oil, I don't understand how you can say something like that. I don't understand how you could speak. Each one of these containers is a tractor trailer. That's what I want to show people. I want to show people the stacks, yeah.
And what is really amazing is
Do you understand? Like, look at this. These are tractor trailers.
Containers that are being moved.
And they're one at a time. Each container, one at a time. I want to slow this down because they sped it up for some reason. But like, look at this shit.
And what is really amazing is that
You're like, Hassan, bring oil. Hassan, bring oil. Hassan, why aren't you bringing oil? This is what the United States is cutting Cuba off participating. This is what it takes. Do you see these freight trains? This is what is being cut off by American blockade. Do you know what 1 million people even means? Like every single one of those people. I know this is hard for you to understand, but every single one of those people has a bed, eats 3 meals a day, goes and takes shits, has clothes. They take up space. You understand what that means? I kind of process that. You are one, okay? I can't even. I'm just disgusted that someone would be associated with me or watch me and then not understand logistics. Like, what the fuck? You're supposed to be smart. I'm not an anarchist, but I feel like they're an important part of the leftist coalition. Should we be shit talking them? This is what an oil tanker looks like, chat. It's bigger than the Empire State Building. Hassan, bring oil. I mean, logistics are almost so big as to be hard to comprehend. It's absolutely insane the stuff we do for logistics. Not hard to comprehend. In fact, comprehending it is vital for politics and war. I want to do a revolution, but then I forgot I needed food and ammo and water and clothing and medical equipment. Oh, fuck. I just starved to death. I guess I lost. I run a grain on trains every day for work. It takes 2 million bushels of grain to fill a typical vessel. That is 120 million pounds, roughly 5 full trains. That chatter goes on to say flotillas while purpose is pointless posturing. That chat. Okay, so they're a bad empanada chatter. They're not a mic chatter. Don't call them a mic chatter. I would never say something that fucking stupid. I praise the flotilla. The purpose of the flotilla is to get attention. Yes, it's nice to bring some aid. The purpose of the flotilla is to draw eyes to what's happening to Cuba so that people can start to oppose it. So it becomes politically painful to support the blockade of Cuba. It's for pressuring progressives and Democrats to speak out against the blockade of Cuba. It's not there to physically, they don't have container ships. They would need hundreds of millions of dollars to really make a dent. They're a fallen chatter that was rotted by BE. Oh, God. Hashtag never what I would say. This is why I want state power, by the way. This is why I want state power. You want to solve homelessness? You need ships like this. You need the lumber output of Canada. You want to solve homelessness? You have to actually control trillions of dollars. You want to fix problems? You have to control the apparatuses of state. So chatter said I saw that weirdos chats in here and called them a normal mic from PA chatter. Oh, okay. Who was that chatter? Who said that? Can you give me that clip? They're a gifted subber. I have a lot of gifted subs. They have gifted subs. They're not a subber. They have got gifted subs. Who gives a fuck? I heard Mike replace you with Mike from North Carolina. Nice. Bad Empanada and other ultras are just apathetic liberals. Or excuse me, apathetic liberals who still think they belong to the left. Yes. If you're not involved with an organization, then your leftism is lifestyle. If you're not actively engaged in political work, then your leftism is a personal brand. And it literally does not matter. Well, now I feel bad because I broke and got a gifty. Oh, no, I'm glad that you're here and glad that you got a gifty. But if you got a gift, that's not a multiple year Mike sub. No, that's just somebody who got gifted a lot. Mike, Andrew is no longer a prince. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. I thought it was the royal blood. I thought it was God, divine right, and the traditions were so important because they're bloodline. Wait, you're telling me we could just remove their titles at whim because they make the monarchy look bad? Well, it kind of seems like the monarchy shouldn't exist. Why are we giving hundreds of billions of dollars to this family of fail sons? I thought they had some divine blood that we needed to, celebrate out of tradition. What happened? All right, let's move the fuck on. This conversation is just making me want to quit streaming. This conversation is making me want to give up on the left. I don't like to ponder how little other people know. It actually kind of causes me to get sick to my stomach when I realize how little people fucking know about the world around them. And it makes me fucking, that's my despair moment. My despair moment is realizing how dumb as fuck 99% of people are. 2028 New Hampshire Democratic primary. Why is Bernie in this? Why the fuck is Bernie Sanders in this? He's not running. He's 90 quadrillion years old. Why the fuck is Bernie Sanders in this? Bro, you have 88 views. Why do you think this is going to work? I think you gave me the wrong link. Just good luck, man. Good luck with your very bad gaming streams.
From PA fan? No, Mike from PA is also super pro this. Socialism means no fun, you fools. Wait for communism for fun. Hassan from Hong Kong. How can this person be a normal member in both of our communities, but in this very moment, he just like loses his fucking mind? Oh, they got banned from Hoscord for being fucking annoying.
Okay, that's honestly, I need to talk to Hassan about Hoscord. Hoscord is the annoying people, and it's coming from the mods. Like, I'll be honest with you. I think Hoscord should be banned because of who runs it, not because of like regular chatters. If I'm being honest. If this guy got banned at Hoscord, it's probably for a good reason. Probably not. Clavicular soundboard mogged Hassan.
Listen to the words that are coming out of the video that they're using. What is this?
I find it quite silly to me.
No.
This is what Hassan using the soundboard is like. Like when I see Hassan using the soundboard, that's what I think. And the reason why I think that is because Hassan uses generic ass sounds. Why are you using generic TikTok sounds? Get your own soundboard with your own fucking sounds that are funny. Like having a couple generic soundboard sounds is fine. Why is it all generic shit? That's lame. Former South Korean President Yoon Suk Yeol has been sentenced to life in prison for his imposition of martial law in December 2024. Yo, why didn't the Democrats do this to Trump? Yeah, guys, I saw this. All right, let's move on to something that isn't boring. Can we talk about something that isn't boring? I feel like I'm in a moment where I'm having one of these moments where I'm feeling very misanthropic, and I'm feeling like I feel like I'm looking down on people because their way of being is so fucking embarrassing that it makes me feel very unlikable. It's making me feel very prickly. I just want to insult people right now because they're dumb. You know, like, and it's not good content. It's not what we want to be doing. Okay, let's get into some other content.
This is going to be the story for blue cities around the country right now. What Zoran Mom.
I'm not an anarchist, but I feel like they're an important part of the leftist coalition. Keep feeling. Keep feeling. Keep allowing feelings to guide your political beliefs. Keep feeling.
Donnie is facing here because the federal government, led by Donald Trump, is waging all-out war on cities that are led by Democrats, particularly if you're a person of color.
What cities aren't?
Right. I mean, but
gosh, I needed to ban that other chatter. Shit. Hold on. No, that's not the one.
That motherfucker.
I don't even want to ban the chatter that is annoying, right? Like, I'm not even trying to ban the chatter that's annoying. I want to ban the chatter that's linking my logs, going, this is a Mike from PA, average Mike from PA chatter.
Sane is Mike from PA fan? No,
okay.
Mike from PA is also...
Who is this? Who said sanest Mike from PA fan? That's what I'm trying to find. Who is the chatter?
You have now decided to reside in. Sane is Mike from...
Oh, okay. He paused it. They're right off the screen. Hold on. We'll wait.
PA fan? No, Mike from PA...
Oh, God. He scrolled so fast.
Use a mark of honor.
I got you? Okay.
Forward. In whichever other community you have now decided to reside.
Just ban them on a couple other channels too. All right, let's get back to what I was saying. Zoran not fucking around.
And in blue states, he's got it, the way he's terrorized LA, the way he's terrorized Chicago. The only thing, even though we're seeing increased ICE activity in New York City, it seems like the only thing that is keeping him from doing the same to his hometown is, one, his affection for it, two, his affection for Zoran Mamdani, but particularly, as Politico reported, Zoran apparently kind of appealed to Trump in that meeting a few months ago.
I'm not even going to ban that tolerance guy. That tolerance guy just had a really bad, embarrassing take. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine to have an embarrassingly wrong take. and get corrected, right? Like, that's not bannable. What is bannable is trying to cause infighting with me and Hassan. Get the fuck out of here.
By talking about his desire to like reform zoning, which is apparently something that Trump had been railing about for years prior to his political career as well. So someone on Zoran's team did great research, and that was
which keys to jingle.
Exactly. But he, as a headline, did notch a significant win yesterday. He's going to be able to appoint 6 members to the Rent Guidelines Board, which is the board that basically determines whether or not he's going to be able to deliver on his campaign promise to freeze rent for 1 million rent-stabilized apartments.
The concern being that Adams had stacked it with a bunch of toadies that were going to get in the way of that. That has already cleared itself out.
Exactly. There were 3 resignations of the Adams toadies, meaning we don't know how Zoran got them to resign. But probably leveraging his enormous popularity and some other arm twisting behind the scenes. I mean, his governance is a laboratory for future left-wing and progressive governance in many ways. But
I think local and global thinkers are important to the whole system. Obviously, having a more global perspective and large-scale power is important and arguably more important and impactful. But local organizers in politics is also super important to effectively target a location's needs. I feel like my local blue government is doing a pretty good job in a red state, and having those local positive examples is very important as well. Okay, a couple things. One, your local blue government is not doing a good. I don't care where they are. That's just not true. The second thing is, I agree with, of course, we have to be involved locally. Locally is how you have power. You have power locally, and that achieves power nationally because we have geographically bounded districts. There's only one national election. That's for the president. All of our other elections are geographically based. So you need to have local concentrated power in order to win any other position in the government. So obviously that's true. That being said, even if somebody is going for local power, they need a sense of how things work. Like if you think that the the energy utility is price gouging, how do you know that? How do you know the energy utility is price gouging? How do you know the privatized water system is price gouging? How do you know that? How are you able to make decisions? How are you able to deliver? If you don't have a sense of how the world works, how these systems function, how the fuck can you administer them?
Including his aggression and his ruthlessness. I mean, we don't, in the best way. You know, that is what a lesson that should be learned is that he
What, you the same guy who said you were going to force people into re-education camps? If you were in power, that's authoritarianism. Americans cannot have re-education camps. It would be impossible to have a re-education camp because to be re-educated, you must first be educated. And you don't call something an education camp. You call it what it is, which is a school. What Americans need is school. And I promise you, they will have a very robust funding, with teachers being paid a living wage.
With urgency, and he doesn't mess around. So he's gotten 3 resignations.
I believe we should open the schools. If I was, if I were designing an education system, I think like civil engineering, logistics, financial education, like that really needs to happen. We need to have more of that because the fact that people don't understand the nature of why Cuba is suffering. Like a lot of people say, oh, well, other countries could trade with Cuba. Why is America sanctioning it? That's not the same thing as a blockade. You could trade from Mexico, but then if Mexico tries to trade with Cuba, you know what America does? They say, we're going to put tariffs on all your goods. If you send oil to Cuba, Claudia, then we're going to put tariffs on all Mexican goods. So now the Mexican people are being punished if Mexico tries to trade with Cuba. Now, maybe Mexico should eat that. Maybe Mexico should say, you know what? I'm going to hurt the Mexican economy, hurt Mexican people, and I'm going to defy the United States. Maybe that's the right call. The problem is the U.S. will escalate. How do I know that? It's called Venezuela. Venezuela used to do exactly what so many of you are calling for. And what happened is because America is the global hegemon and the people in power are fascist, authoritarian imperialists, the more that you defy the United States, the more robustly you defy the United States, the more pressure is applied. And it's very easy to sit in America as a fat American or a fat Australian and go, those other people should sacrifice to stop my government's bad policies. What the fuck are you talking about, bitch? You don't get to say that as an American or a European. And Mexico aren't cowardly. They are sending aid anyway. They're doing everything they can. What we need to do is put pressure on our disgusting fucking government and politicians to defend Cuba. And one of those ways is by traveling to Cuba, using the platforms we have, by going to Cuba, by using things like the flotilla to bring aid directly while also drawing attention. A lot of people think because they have the right ideas, they know the right details, then everybody knows.
And he's going to be able to freeze the rent, and that means we're in mid to late February.
You could sugarcoat it as much as you want. Okay, hold on. This person isn't following me for a minute. Okay, they said you said forcefully put people in re-education camps. That's authoritarian. That's not socialism. Why do you think that Nazis should not be arrested? Why do you think after the Soviet Union won World War II, why should they have let Hitler walk free? Can you explain to me why you were in favor of Hitler walking free? What is it about Hitler that you admire? Can you explain to me what about Hitler you admire? Okay, Junjun. Is it because they killed a lot of children that you want him to be free? Or is it because he killed Jews, or because he killed Romani people, or because they exterminated Polish people? What about them what makes you want Hitler to be free? Instead of insulting people, which is weird, can you explain to me why you think Hitler's freedom is more important? James, be normal. I think the problem that we have is America has a fascist population of people that worship and are racists. And there are tens of millions of people like that. I don't know what else to say. There are people that are calling for a genocide right now. We need to disrupt that. And Hassan would agree with me on that. And it's not about education camps. I'm not in favor of education camps. I believe that you should use the minimum amount of proportional power to create positive change in our society.
He's already secured the ability to deliver on 2 of his 4 campaign promises, freezing the rent for those units, and he already secured funding from Kathy.
I understand, Mike. Put it all together so people would understand. He gave Mexico their props. Yes, Mexico did a lot. I support Mexico. I support Claudia. I hope she was able to do more. But the reason why Mexico is sending oil is because the United States is threatening Mexico. That's why. And instead of looking at what Mexico or China is doing to help Cuba, which is a lot, by the way, that's why I showed you the port of Long Beach, because those states are spending tens of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in aid. China is helping Cuba build solar panel, electrical grid investments to try to replace their electrical generation from oil-based to solar. 30% of Cuba's power is now renewable after only a couple years of effort from China. That is what's happening. And it's important that we highlight that. I want them to do more. I don't want to see the people of Cuba attacked, blockaded, starved, and suffer. But there's a certain kind of person who lives in the West, who lives in an imperialist country, and they spend their time insulting people and leaders, the global South, who are trying to resist the United States. And it's like, bitch, you are in the imperial core. What the fuck are you doing?
Vocal for his universal child.
Your intelligence doesn't matter when the first thing you do is insults. So let's just choose to go to right insults. Tell me about your intel level. What insults? What are you talking about? Nothing I said was an insult. What are you talking about?
Child care pilot program, but we've still got free buses and we've still got the city-run grocery stores to worry about.
Which were, frankly, I would think the lower
100%.
Yeah.
It seems to be an order of operations.
Yeah, smart. Yeah. I mean, and that's where you move in terms of left politics. There's a time for expression of left ideals. There's also a time for implementing those things. And I think we're in that phase right now for Zoran, at least.
Yes. And he's going to need, though.
Chatter exposed themselves as racist. Only chuds use chimp. Wait, they said chimp out? Y'all chimped out? What the? Who says shit like that?
Significant help from Albany. because he's going to need Hochul to raise taxes on
That's like
on the
ancient 4chan racism.
And he's been priming the public to understand this with talking about how Eric Adams left the city budget in disarray. It's just a smart way to frame it, too, because Adams is an unpopular former mayor, and he's using...
I think, again, the problem with somebody like OK Jun is they haven't been educated, and they don't know what the United States has done. They don't know that the United States has supported multiple genocides, where they exterminated everybody who was left-wing. And when I say left-wing, I don't mean me. I mean, like, hey, I think the steelworkers should have a union. Shoot that guy in the head. Anti-communist mass killings. Look at these. Can you show me the anti-fascist mass killings? And they happen in countries like Spain, Greece, Hungary, obviously Germany, Finland. 10,000 leftists were executed by the victorious White Guard forces during the White Terror of the Finnish Civil War in 1918. 22,000 Communist Party of Estonia members, alleged communist Soviet prisoners of war and Estonia Jews were massacred as part of the Holocaust of Estonia. Bulgaria, Vietnam, 310,000 deaths were counter-guerrilla mass killings by the United States. Thailand, Taiwan, thousands of people labeled as communist sympathizers and spies were killed by the government. Government-led crackdown killed several thousand people, with estimates setting the death roll toll at 30,000. From 1947 to 1987, 140,000 Taiwanese were imprisoned. What would you say that is? That's precious Taiwan. They had camps for anybody who criticized the government, not just leftists. During the Korean War, tens of thousands of suspected communists and communist sympathizers were killed. What was known as the Bodo League Massacre. 100,000 people were executed on suspicion of supporting communism, a figure he called very conservative. An overwhelming majority, 82% of the Korean War era massacres that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was petitioned to investigate were perpetuated by the Republic of Korea Armed Forces, with just 18% of massacres being perpetrated by the Korean People's Army. Indonesia killed millions. In 2016, an international tribunal of The Hague ruled the killings constitute crimes against humanity. It ruled that the United States and other Western governments were complicit in the crimes. Most estimate between 500,000 and 1 million murdered. Not even for being communists, but being sympathetic to communism. Which means what? A friend of a communist, a trade unionist, even a liberal. East Timor, by broadcasting false accusations of communism against the Revolutionary Front for an Independent East Timor, leaders and sowing discord in the Timorese Democratic Union Coalition, the Indonesian government fostered instability in East Timor and, according to observers, created a pretext for invading it. They killed and starved 150,000 from 1975 to 1999. Again, supported by the United States, but ultimately, I think, ended. I think it was originally supported by the U.S. I'd have to get back into it, but Kuomintang massacred 1 million civilians during the Civil War in China. Do I need to go on? The Guatemalan genocide? 200,000 Guatemalans were killed for being leftists. How about the Salvadoran Civil War? 75,000 people killed for being leftists. What about Argentina? 30,000 civilians suspected of communism or other leftist sympathies during a period of state terror. I guess we're just going to forget this. I think it's important that people understand that when we talk about fascism and when we talk about the United States, we're talking about mass murder that would make the Holocaust look small. All right, let's move on. Prince Andrew arrested for the Epstein information in the Epstein files. This happened this morning. I think the problem is, like, when you're saying, hey, people that support mass killing, Nazism, we should break them out of the social environment that has created their virulent racism. We should provide empathetic education. We should dismantle the institutions that create fascism and fascist thought. People are like, oh my God, I can't believe you're being such an authoritarian.
Prince Andrew has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he was taken into custody in Norfolk just a short while ago. He is accused of allegedly sharing confidential information with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Mountbatten Windsor has previously denied any wrongdoing over his ties to Epstein. King Charles had stripped his brother of his titles back in October and has since evicted him from Windsor. Let's get back down to CNN's Salma Abdulaziz, who joins us live in London. Salma, what's the latest that you're hearing?
Well, Salma, the latest is that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, 33 years old, was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Now known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he was taken into custody in Norfolk just a short while ago. He is accused of allegedly sharing confidential information with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Mountbatten Windsor has previously denied any wrongdoing over his ties to Epstein. King Charles had stripped his brother of his titles back in October and has since evicted him from Windsor. Let's get back down to CNN's Salma Abdulaziz, who joins us live in London. Salma, what's the latest that you're hearing? I want to start by asking maybe questions of what we don't know and what we do know so far. So we do know that he's been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office, but there's a lot of details that are still missing here, of course, Rahel. We don't know the specifics of the allegations of this investigation by the police. Talking about a period of time between 2001 to 2011 when he was representing the UK as a trade envoy. But what are the specific allegations, the specific accusations of misconduct? We don't yet know that. What information actually prompted Thames Valley Police to make this arrest? That's the key question here, because we understand that they have been assessing this claim for some time now, I would say a period of days. That latest trove of emails where we see these allegations come to light has been out for a few weeks now. So what was the trigger? What was the switch? What was it that the police held on to that said, okay, now is the time when we need to take this very extraordinary action, of course, in this country? We also don't know where Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is currently being held. We don't know where he is being held. We simply know that he's been arrested, but we don't know any details beyond that or what the status of that is in terms of his arrest. And we still don't know if he's been interviewed under caution. That's what it's described as in this country. So essentially, has he been asked questions? Has he sat down with a police officer and been asked questions as of yet? And where has he been asked these questions? What location has he been taken to? What do we actually know right now? Well, what we do know, Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, former Prince Andrew, who only earlier this month was forced of the royal residence into his brother's residence, the Sandringham estate, which is currently being searched by police, has now faced a watershed moment, really, not just for himself, but for the royal family and really for this country at large, being arrested. Now, again, being arrested does not mean being guilty. We do not know the specifics of why the police have taken this extraordinary action of arrest. That is the detail we need. But you can imagine that the royal family is reeling. King Charles has been trying to get ahead of this time and time again. Last year, he stripped his brother of all his royal titles. I said he's pushed him out of the royal residence. He even took this really extraordinary step of preempting the possibility of this happening right now by saying he was willing to support the police in any inquiry that they had. So there's going to be a sense in this country, first of all, this has caught up with Prince Andrew. He has been long under question, long under suspicion for his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, a relationship that he appears to have lied about in the past, saying that he ended his relationship with Mr. Epstein once he was a convicted sex offender, so around 2008. Now, in these latest email troves, that does not appear to be the case, and it is now clear that he did continue that relationship after Epstein was convicted, and it is that information that led King Charles to strip him of his royal titles, to take these extraordinary steps to try to get ahead of what's happening here. But again, it has caused.
By the way, I mean, if he could be so easily stripped of his title, why do any of them have titles? Plenty of people visit castles in France. I went to Versailles in 2000. Who gives a fuck? You know, I don't need to have an emperor there to go look at the palace. In fact, you could see more of it when there's nobody living there. Hellas Streamer's title is Hassan has been canceled. I think those people are baiting. I think those people are baiting because they don't have any. There's no reason to listen to somebody. You know what I mean? Like, also that was an attempt that happened like days ago. Who gives a shit? Poke the pack.
Up with them. There is going to be also a bit of empathy, I imagine, in this country for his family, the York family as they are known here. He has 2 young daughters. They're in their 30s. They have their own families. Their faces have been splashed all over the media for the last. So many questions here swirling around what is, first of all, a family that represents this country, the monarchy as an institution, and how Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor represented it as a trade envoy. And I did write down some details of the emails that could be in question here. Around 2010, he appears to have forwarded government report visits, details of those visits in Vietnam, Singapore, China. There are emails that indicate that Mountbatten Windsor forwarded investment opportunities for gold and uranium in Afghanistan. He had a duty of confidentiality between 2001 and 2000 as trade envoy. Did he abuse the public office? Did he violate government information? Did he violate the pact of confidentiality? That is the question the police are asking right now. The details around that, we have yet to know.
So this is the kind of story where it generates a flurry of texts, people trying to put together what they know now. Can you remind us the state of play here in the U.S.? Right now, it's the House Oversight Committee, right? Like, who is investigating what at this point?
Well, that's a question that we don't actually know the full answer to. The House Oversight Committee is pursuing some depositions with the former Victoria's Secret owner, Wexner, did a deposition yesterday, but also there's this whole the question
and he's
of
a major donor,
yes,
which is why people are focused on him.
And the question of whether Bill and Hillary Clinton, what their testimony will look like, that's been going back and forth, but is expected in the coming weeks. But I think that the thing that is notable here is that so far the fallout from the Epstein files, which by the way have still not been fully released despite the law that said that they needed to be, the fallout has been not in America, not in American politics in ways that people have really been feeling.
Yeah, because guess why? Because American media is completely captured by the oligarch class. Completely captured by the oligarch class. There is, like, every mainstream media outlet is nothing but a propaganda for the blob, the centrist blob that Epstein represents. So you can't, nobody's talking, they don't talk about it. Now, regular people are talking about it in social media, which is why they're trying to buy it. They're trying to buy it out and censor it.
The kinds of...
Surely the UK media is no better. You would think, I think part of the reason why it's the UK media isn't as controlled is ironically because Starmer is in power. And so the fascist oligarchs are brazenly using this scandal to undermine Starmer so they can get reform elected. Whereas in America, the fascists are already in power. So the media is not interested in, the media is not interested in damaging Trump. That's what I would say.
Results that have been happening in Europe,
yeah.
Or people even stepping away from business dealings in the United States. There are a lot of political figures who keep coming up in these documents.
Yeah.
Documents are not necessarily things that implicate guilty behavior, but we have from the Justice Department from the beginning this statement that there was nothing to follow up on in terms of criminal investigation. We just don't, that statement coming at the front of the release when we see that other things have been followed up on.
I want to add one more thing to that because Prince Andrew in the past has denied the allegations of sexual abuse from people like the late Virginia Giuffre. I just want to read something just because the paper happens to be in front of me. New York Times, they're talking about the Commerce Secretary Lutnick, and they mention that it says he's not the only prominent Trump administration official to appear. The records show that RFK Jr., obviously of DHS, once went hunting for dinosaur fossils with Mr. Epstein. An email file shows that Dr. Mehmet Oz, who's at CMMS, invited Mr. Epstein to a 2016 Valentine's Day. None of these things are criminal, but they're also part of this dialogue that says the elites, there's an elite out there, they're all buddies, they all hang out with each other.
Which is objectively true. That's what the files prove. The files prove that there is an elite. It's an international cabal, mostly of virulent Zionists who frequently use slurs for non-Jews. That's just a fact, okay? Who are in both parties. You have fucking Noam Chomsky and Steve Bannon chatting amicably with Woody Allen, Bill Clinton. It's all a big fucking club. And honestly, there's things I've liked about Noam Chomsky, but I've always been kind of like not that big of a Noam fan. And the reason why is anytime someone declares themselves to be an anarchist, the bar of suspicion for me skyrockets. If they are a public intellectual and they call themselves, now there are anarchists I like David Graeber. He seems really chill. Noam Chomsky was always like doing this like, oh, the Soviet Union was so bad. Oh, Lenin was so bad. And it's like anybody who says that either did not study Russia, which I know he has, or they're a propagandist. And so he was always kind of like, as the CIA would call it, the compatible left, which is he would give voice to American propaganda against our adversary states. And so I've always been I do think that the insights of manufacturing consent are valuable. There's no doubt about that. But he wasn't the only author, okay? I wonder when we're arresting the people who shot Renee Good and Alex Preddy. Never. because nobody's protesting. That's the reality. Nobody's going out there protesting for them, so it's not going to happen. Their murderers got off.
And they accrue the benefits of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, in 2016, he was a convicted pedophile. Why are you hanging out with this man in general? And I just am hard-pressed to find that people didn't know that of his behavior. And then they also lied about it. And they lied to the American people. Lutnick actually lied to people and said, I had nothing to do with it. And then he's like, oh, wait, I did have lunch on the island. It's like, who do you believe anymore at this point? And I think, to your point, the American people, I think, are so interested in this because of the power dynamic, because they see that they'll never be able to get ahead. They're not in these elite circles. They're not in this weird class of people that do things and aren't held accountable and get to play by different rules.
But I also think another thing that sticks out to me when you read through the different revelations that have been coming out of these files is that I think a lot of Americans think like, oh, there's Republicans and there's Democrats, but actually among the elite, they're not really as different as you think. And these are files that include everyone from Naomi Campbell to Steve Bannon going and allegedly hanging out on this island. And so it's like, wait a minute, this is not. This elite is like, it's different than like right versus left.
That's where it plugs into the bigger political thing going on here. There's this phrase, you guys have both used the word class, talk about it. Ro Khanna, the congressman from California who wrote the bill that was the Epstein file, has this phrase, the Epstein class, which has now gotten some pickup.
Oh yeah, or the Epstein administration, I've heard him say.
Yeah, but the Epstein class, I think, does get into the, like, people have a feeling that there are some who are getting ahead, who are getting wealthy, while a lot of Americans are struggling and are not.
Assets, by the way, this guy, Edward Isaac Dovere, is one of the most virulent anti-leftists in the mainstream media. So, of course, he's getting promoted by CNN. A sense, guys. Labor share, or the portion of U.S. economic output that workers receive through salary and wages, has decreased to 53.8%. Its lowest level since the Bureau of Labor Statistics started recording this data in 1947, according to its labor productivity and cost report. In other words, workers are getting paid a smaller share of their productivity than ever before. The labor share of productivity is at an all-time low. And then here you go. Share of consumer spending by age group. 55 and older is now 45% of consumer spending. While everyone 54 and younger is only 54%. I wrote, boomer luxury communism is the real bipartisan consensus. Do everything you can to keep boomers' real estate wealth protected, even if it means you destroy the next generation. I mean, Jesus fucking Christ, this is insane. How are people not mad? How the fuck are people not mad? Bernie Sanders was not happy with Hassan's gift. I don't know why people post shit like this, man. Like, please stop. Please stop. I gotta be honest with you, chat. Like, if your humor is, I'm a fan of Hassan, but my posts are gonna be like misinterpreting what happened and clip chimping it and putting on like a false title. Just stop. We don't need that shit anymore, man. Maybe that was cute in 2019, but it's not cute anymore. It's fucking old.
Able to break through this going on, and what's in these files at the very least does seem to confirm that for a lot of people, that there's this rich network of people. They go hunt for dinosaur fossils together. They hang out on an island. And then you add in all of the illicit behavior, all this. It's stuff that is remote from anything that most people are dealing with, and makes the economic, the stratification going on in American society feel much more real.
Yeah, it puts a literal face on it.
If you want to know why the Democratic Party doesn't care about the Epstein files, look at the billionaire contributions as percentage of total contributions. Prior to Citizens United, billionaires never gave more than 1% of the total political contributions. After Citizens United, it's now 16.5%. So instead of having to do like 10,000 calls to a bunch of local people to support your political campaign, you make 5 calls to billionaires. Okay, you're not allowed to come into my chat, follow me, and then just post some bullshit. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to just come into my chat, post some random shit, no context, first message, get the fuck out. 38 even? Very mild, very mild. I really hate the way the internet now operates. The way the internet now operates is just post outright lies. People have now been incentivized to just post outright lies. And one of the narratives that people post is, so-and-so broke their promise. That's such an easy post to make. It's so easy. Be like, AOC supported the coup in Bolivia, and then post a picture. And it's just a complete fucking lie. That's actually why Bad Empanada started to attack me in particular. Is he posted that AOC supported the Bolivian coup, but in fact, she was one of the first politicians in the entire world to call it a coup and come out against it. And I said, actually, that's not true. She did not support that. And he started going schizo. So he posts misinformation, he gets corrected, and he goes schizo. That's the world we now live in. Oh, God. All right, chat. More Prince Andrew news.
BBC understands that he has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. That's from our correspondent who has found that information out. Just for context, we heard this morning from the Prime Minister in an interview that nobody is above the law when he was asked about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, but he declined to say whether the former prince should volunteer himself to the UK police. We now understand, though, that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former Prince Andrew, has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. So just to give you some more context on this, this is clearly linked to files that have been coming out about Jeffrey Epstein. And we understand that Thames Valley Police has been assessing allegations that a woman was sent to the UK by Jeffrey Epstein for a sexual encounter with Mr. Mountbatten Windsor. And the encounter allegedly occurred at the former prince's residence, Royal Lodge, in 2010. The woman, who's not British, was in her 20s at the time. And the woman's lawyer said that after spending the night with Mountbatten Windsor at the Royal Lodge in 2010, the woman alleges she was given tea and a tour of Buckingham Palace. Now, we've also, clearly, those are some of the links that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has always denied any wrongdoing on the matters of the links with Jeffrey Epstein to do with sexual matters, but he is also being investigated for his role as a trade envoy. MPs might be looking into his conduct while he was working as a trade envoy for the UK. The Today programme heard from Liam Byrne, who said that his committee, the Business and Trade Committee, which is a cross-party committee, would be meeting next Tuesday to decide how we might or might not take this investigation forward. Now, we understand from the latest files released by the US Department of Justice that the former prince forwarded sensitive government documents and commercial information to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. As I've mentioned, Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing. MPs have been taking the allegations acutely seriously, according to Mr. Byrne, and they said that they guarantee that MPs are not in the market for letting anything slip through the cracks. For context, the former Duke of York served as UK trade envoy for between 2001 and 2011, and in this role he travelled globally and enjoyed privileged access to senior government and business contacts around the world. In 2010, Andrew appears to have forwarded government reports from visits to Vietnam, Singapore and China to Epstein, according to the recently published files. And the documents also appear to show Andrew forwarded Epstein information on investment opportunities in gold and uranium in Afghanistan. So to recap, if you're just joining us, the BBC understands that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested, and as you'll recall, he has been living at Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate. Now, the documents, as I was talking about, under official guidance, trade envoys have a duty of confidentiality over sensitive commercial or political information about their official visits. I understand we can now join Lucy Manning, who's the one who's been breaking the story. And Lucy, tell us what you know.
Good morning. Well, my understanding is that there has been a very significant development in the investigation into the Epstein files, and Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been arrested this morning on suspicion of misconduct in public life. That goes back to documents when he was a trade envoy are alleged to have been passed to Epstein. It was actually the Mail Online this morning that had.
So in other words, he was giving documents to Israel through Epstein. So he was acting as a spy for Israel. Wow, a pedophile's a spy for Israel? What a surprise! What a surprise! You can generally assume if somebody is a pedophile and they have government power, they're a spy for Israel.
Pictures of what looked like police officers near the Sandringham estate, and I was able to confirm that there has been an arrest made this morning. We are expecting a statement from the police force. It is Thames Valley Police who have been looking into the allegations against Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. They've been looking into sexual allegations and misconduct in public life. My understanding is this arrest is just about the misconduct in public life, and obviously a very significant moment that the former Prince Andrew been arrested. He has previously strenuously denied any wrongdoing on any of these matters related to Epstein.
Tell us a little bit about what it means, the misconduct in public office. How serious a charge might that be?
Well, it is a serious charge, and it does involve people who were in positions of authority misusing their office, either for criminal or personal gain. We must stress at the moment they are only allegations, and the police will have more information and research and investigations that they need to do. It is Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's birthday today, and he will have now marked this birthday being arrested by British police. It is fairly outstanding, astonishing, really, that a member, he's still, is it 8th or 9th in line to the throne, that a member of the royal family, although he doesn't have those royal titles anymore, the King's brother, has been arrested by British police in relation.
By the way, they kept this motherfucker around far longer when it was very clear who he was and what he was doing. They were covering it up.
To these Epstein allegations.
And on that, Lucy, how damaging is it to the royal family? We've seen that on outings recently, other members of the royal family have been asked questions about this. What is the likely fallout of it now escalating to Andrew Mountbatten Windsor actually being arrested?
Well, it is extremely damaging. There are unanswered questions for the royal family itself that they haven't answered. We've had two statements from members of the royal family previously about their thoughts with the victims in Epstein. They have tried to cut Andrew Mountbatten Windsor off, losing the royal titles and distancing themselves from him. But I think there is a feeling that the royal family will have to say more and do more. Obviously, they won't want to get involved in any way with the police investigation ongoing, but I think many people feel that there are questions to answer from the royal family, and more needs to be said. And it goes without saying that even though he is plain Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, he is still deeply connected with the royal family. He has this house now in the grounds of Sandringham, and it will be very, very damaging to the royal family that this arrest has now happened.
All right, we have this.
Some breaking news in the last few minutes. We've had a statement from
Mike, do you think the Queen was eating babies? My general thoughts about the elite is that I think they should be destroyed because of their position, their class position. I think that the position that they hold is justification enough for their destruction. Now, I'm not calling for their killing or anything. What I'm saying is destroy the title of queen. Take away all of this inherited wealth. Turn it into museums. Turn it into national heritage sites. Turn it into tourist locations. Seize all their wealth. Make them private citizens. Give them all government pensions, Don't make them live out on the street. That's just cruel. Maybe they could get a job as a tour guide or whatever the fuck. Now, if it turns out that they did commit crimes of pedophilia or cannibalism or whatever, well, then execute them. One of the things about royal blood is that its very existence invites political instability. And so if you ask me, in history, what was the wiser choice? What Mao did with Punyi, where they rehabilitated him and made him into a communist? Or what happened to the Romanovs? I got to admit, I'm more of I believe that the correct decision from a utilitarian point of view was the Romanov. I still think what Mao did with Punyi was morally right and probably the right call. It ended up being the right call, right? It ended up being correct, but I think it was the riskier play. I think it was the riskier play. And the fact that it worked out, I'm happy. Honestly, I think what happened with the last emperor of China is actually fucking heartwarming. I think it's insanely. It shows you how much better the left is, to be honest with you. Like when they brought former comfort women who had been raped by the Japanese occupiers and had her talk to the former emperor of China, the collaborator with the Japanese empire, and she told about how much better her life was and how she had a man who loved her and how she had persevered through all the atrocities that he had committed against her, and he had to apologize. That shit is peak. That shit was fucking peak. This is a good treat. They're constantly killing. They're doing all of these. They're constantly destroying and killing. And are we supposed to sympathize with the royals? Of course we are. That's the propaganda. That's the crown. That's the show. The whole point is to like protect. I'm sure it was funded to protect the crown, protect the British royal family in the context of Prince Andrew's pedophilia. Like it was almost certainly set up to try to bolster support for the continuation of the royal family. It's without a doubt a, capitalist class op.
The King, I'm going to read it to you in full. I have learned with the deepest concern the news about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and suspicion of misconduct.
Like, look at this shit. King and Prince William's estates making millions from charities and public services. Duchies of Cornwall and Lancaster are likely to make at least 50 million from leasing land to services such as NHS and schools. What? Why the fuck are you giving tens of millions of dollars from schools and the NHS to this fucking moron? Scum. King Charles and Prince William's property empires are taking millions of pounds from cash-strapped charities and public services, including the NHS state schools and prisons. The reports claim the duchies of Lancaster and Cornwall, which are exempt from business taxes and used to fund the royals' lifestyles and philanthropic, are set to make at least 50 million from leasing land to public services. The two duchies hold a total of more than 5,400 leases. One 15-year-old deal will see Guy and St. Thomas's NHS Hospital Trust in London pay 11.4 million pounds to store its fleet of electric ambulances and warehouses owned by the Duchy of Lancaster. King will also make 28 million from wind farms because the Duchy of Lancaster retains a feudal right to charge for cables crossing the foreshore. While William's Duchy of Cornwall, the hereditary estate of the heir to the throne, has signed a $37 million deal to lease Dartmoor Prison for 25 years to the Ministry of Justice, which is liable for all repairs despite paying $1.5 million a head for a jail empty of prisoners because of high levels of radon gas. That's why they made the crown, chat, to defend that.
Conduct in public office. What now follows is the full, fair and proper process.
Lord Mountbatten was a pedophile with a perversion for young boys. FBI files on Prince Charles' uncle, Lord Mountbatten, killed by an IRA bomb 41 years ago, describe him as a homosexual with a perversion for young boys. Oh, wow. Oh, it looks like Prince Andrew wasn't the first. Oh, and he was killed with a boat boy? You don't say. You don't say. How come the crown doesn't show him molesting little boys? Throughout Lord Mountbatten's life and in the years after he died in an IRA bombing on August 27, 1979, rumors swirled about his extramarital affairs. An FBI dossier on Mountbatten, released in 2019, thanks to a Freedom of Information request, reveals shocking information about the royal who was a mentor to his grandnephew, Prince Charles. 75-year-old intelligence files describe Louis Mountbatten, the first Earl of Burma, and his wife Edwina as persons of extremely low morals, and contained information suggesting that Lord Mountbatten was a pedophile with a perversion for young boys. American intelligence officers began compiling the dossier in 1944 after Mountbatten was named Supreme Allied Commander of Southeast Asia. They were obtained via FOIA request by British historian Andrew Lowney, whose book, The Mountbattens, Their Lives and Loves, will be published on August 22nd. This guy was writing some fucking propaganda book. Their Lives and Loves. Mountbatten's the pedophile fuck? With the Baroness Dicey's, Elizabeth de la Beresford, was being interviewed by the FBI about another topic. She raised concern about Lord Mountbatten. She states that in these circles, Lord Louis Mountbatten and his wife are considered persons of extremely low morals She stated that Lord Louis Mountbatten was known to be a homosexual with a perversion for young boys. In Lady Dicey's opinion, he is an unfit man to direct any sort of military operations because of this condition. She stated further that his wife, Lady Mountbatten, was considered equally erratic. The interview was signed E.E. Conroy, head of the New York field office, who wrote that she appears to have no special motive in making the above statements. Lowney's book also includes an interview with Anthony Daly, who worked as a rent boy for London's rich and famous during the 1970s. Daly claims that Mountbatten had something of a fetish for uniforms, handsome young men in military uniforms with high boots, and beautiful boys in school uniform. The Crown, which hasn't shied away from addressing royal scandals and rumors in the past, will broach the question of Lord Mountbatten's friendship with DJ Jimmy Savile. Hundreds of accusations of predatory and pedophilic sexual abuse against Savile were investigated following his death in 2011. It's not clear whether the Crown will ever address Mountbatten's friendship with Savile, sometimes linked to the investigation of Kincora Boys' Home in Ireland, a school that many believe housed a pedophilia ring for powerful British men. The show has certainly fictionalized rumors regarding the royal family, but even hinting that Mountbatten or Charles knew his buddy Savile had dark intentions would be a daring, perhaps even damning move. He died of his injuries along with grandson Nicholas Knatchbull, local boy Paul Maxwell, who was helping on the boat, and Lady Brabourne, his eldest daughter's mother-in-law. Prince Charles, who described Lord Mountbatten as the grandfather I never had, visited the site of his assassination in 2015. Guys, it's just Andrew. It's just Andrew. It's just Andrew.
Process by which this issue is investigated in the appropriate manner and by the appropriate authorities. In this, as I have said before, they have our full and wholehearted support and cooperation. Let me state clearly, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. Meanwhile, my family and I will continue in our duty and service to you all. And that statement has been signed off, Charles R. Well, let's cross live now and speak to our royal correspondent, Helena Wilkinson, who is at Royal Lodge. And Helena, just talk me through, first of all, before we talk about what the King has said in terms of his statement, talk me through what's happening at Royal Lodge today.
Yes, well, the BBC understands that there are searches currently ongoing in Royal Lodge. Let me just step out from in front of the camera. I don't know if you can make out in the distance, basically the gate where we are. This is where we are allowed to broadcast from. But just beyond that, you enter into Windsor Great Park. You then get to another gate. I don't know if you can make out some sort of pink houses in the distance. Beyond that gate is Royal Lodge. That is where the former Prince Andrew lived until recently. He lived there for more than 20 years. He moved out of the property about a couple of weeks or so ago up to the Sandringham estate. He moved out under the cover of darkness, and we know that he still, or we understand he still has some belongings here because he was going to come back after he moved out to come back and get some of them. But the BBC understands that the searches are currently ongoing at Royal Lodge. It's a huge property within Windsor Great Park, and just on the other side of the gates that lead to Royal Lodge, that property, we have also seen a number of uniformed police officers. We also understand that they are guarding the scene while those searches are being carried out in Royal Lodge. We also saw a police officer driving in a car through the gates as well. Those searches continuing, and as long as those police officers who we've seen who are guarding that gate, we understand those searches will continue until they have gone. Those searching the property will be looking for various things, of course, computer equipment, laptops, computers, perhaps hard copies as well, while those searches are being carried out. We know that from that statement from Thames Valley Police earlier on today, which confirmed that a man in his 60s, who we know is the former Prince and
pedophilia and royalty go together like fish and chips. Honestly, it's even what's even more fundamental than that. It's like bread and toast. They're the same fucking thing.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, that he had been arrested. Thames Valley Police also confirmed in
Epstein and Maxwell pictured at Queen's residence at Balmoral. Picture of pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell relaxing at what appears to be the Queen's Balmoral residence has been shown to a U.S. court. The undated image is thought to have been taken in 1999 when Prince Andrew reportedly invited the couple to stay at the Scottish estate. Man, they were really close.
that statement that searches were being carried out at addresses in Norfolk and Berkshire. Well, the searches in Berkshire are here.
Chat, Trump's granddaughter has something she wants you to hear. Okay? Are you guys ready? Trump's granddaughter.
大家好，今天是农历新年的初二，在这辞旧迎新的日子，我想祝大家一帆风顺，二龙腾，三阳开泰，四季平安，五福临门，六六大顺，七星高照，八方来财，九九同心，十全十美。
I think what we can pretty safely say is that the elites understand that they're ripping the copper out of the walls of the United States and that the United States is imminently going to fall apart. And fundamentally, they understand that they need to position their children and grandchildren to be able to survive in the Chinese century. JD Pandan!
新年快乐，万事如意，年年有余，大吉大利，马年迎吉祥，马年行大运，拜拜。
Graham Plattner has announced that his campaign staff have joined a union and they have signed a union contract.
We're signing our union contract.
And they reached out to me and said, hey, we've got some folks over at the Plattner staff campaign staff, and they would love to join.
I would like to see higher union density in the United States. I would like to see workers understanding how to organize and understand the importance of organizing, and I mean, what better way to model it. All right.
And then that's your stack. This is my stack, and
Perfect.
you know, it's struggle to have healthcare as well as a livable wage, especially when you're working a lot of hours, to make sure that we're electing great people. So it's amazing that we have this and we're able to benefit from this.
It was really interesting for me to talk to my parents when I was going through this process and learning about it. It was really cool for me to learn about. This is my first union and first experience with all of this. So
there's a lot of good stuff in here that really makes sure that the workers are getting what they deserve. So yes, go team.
I think one of the reasons why we are in the world we're in is because social media has very successfully created a contradiction. It has drawn all of us together. It has democratized the content that you see, meaning there isn't gatekeepers. But within that, that's the good side of social media. The downside of social media is that it forces all of us to fully embrace a neoliberal conception of the world. Functionally, to make ourselves all narcissists. It makes us constructive narcissists, and that we have to build a persona, a profile that we present to the world that is different from who we actually are. And so it encourages a type of liberal, consumptive worldview and presentation style. And that is deconstructive of actually functionally socialistic politics. And that's the constant tension, right? You have a democratization, you have a removal of gatekeepers, you have the opportunity for new ideas and new presentations to be brought forward. But at the same time, you have this kind of neoliberalization of the human brain, this constructive narcissism that forces everybody to present themselves as, the most leftist. And it encourages a certain type of extreme and confrontational and antisocial type of conversation, right? I make an extreme comment about you, you're going to stand up and sit and respond. If I say Mike is corrupt, well then, and people are all liking it, well then I got to come out there and respond, right? So it forces engagement, and then all my fans are rage baited and they start replying, how the fuck are you saying that? It's the same thing. It's the same grift. So we have this grift where are the people that are good at social media going to be the people that are good at political analysis? And that's not necessarily the same thing. And that's kind of the place that I'm at right now, which is like, I understand the frustration and rage, the feeling of impotence that we all had and forcing the Democratic Party to stop supporting the genocide in Gaza. That was a rupture point for a lot of people. And it's me too. Like, I already knew the Democratic Party was corrupt. I've despised the Democratic Party for 10 fucking years, okay? But I also understand the structures of our society. I still am constantly referencing myself back to where the masses are, where attention actually is. And just because I have some analysis, I have some belief, doesn't mean it is going to be an effective analysis or belief to change people's minds. You get what I'm saying? And like, I don't know how to do, like the Graham Plattner shit's a perfect example. He's a veteran, guys. He's a veteran. I would never serve in the American imperialist military. Aren't I so much purer than Graham Plattner? Oh, is that politics? Is that politics? I would never support somebody who served tours in Iraq. Veteran versus Abu Ghraib guard. He was a State Department bodyguard, a program set up by Obama. When somebody mentions, like, are you more schizo about Graham Plattner than you are about Barack Obama? That's a question you should ask. Are you more schizo about AOC than you are Joe Biden? And if so, why? The answer is because AOC, Zohran Mamdani, Bernie Sanders, whatever, they're still in the arena. They're a threat to the Democratic Party's establishment. They may also not be a threat. They may also collaborate. They may also capitulate. And I think one of the problems is like people think, first of all, if you're not in New York City, Zohran Mamdani is not your candidate. If you're not in AOC's district, she's not your rep. Who is your rep? How much do you post about them? You get one post about AOC for every post you make about your own representative. Why aren't you making posts about your own representative? The answer is very straightforward. No one will respond to it. It'll get no engagement. So the algorithm is incentivizing you to give your local rep a pass, who's probably a fucking Zionist, because you don't get engagement. Why aren't you schizo posting about Janet Mills, who's a quadrillion times worse, a fucking Zionist? How many schizo posts are you posting about her? 0? Why not? Doesn't get you engagement. I mean, that's just reality. That's what I'm talking about. There are 100 senators. How many posts have you made about them? Go look at a list of 100 senators. Do you know their names? There's even senators I don't know. Would you support a reformed leftist in the future that served in today's ICE? No, I think that would be pretty hard to imagine. That would be pretty hard to imagine. That's because ICE has literally always been an openly fascist organization and has always been opposed by the vast, vast majority of people on the left. And whereas military service in America still has massive positive support by almost literally the entire country. That's just a reality, which means that if you're one of those people that are like America KKK empire, you are in the approximately like maybe like 4% of the population agrees with you. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying you're not where the masses are. You just aren't. And so it's like, I think ultimately that type of question, by the way, would you support a leftist who did blah, 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 is fundamentally liberal. It's moralism. And it's unbecoming of a leftist or a communist or a Marxist. It's moralism. You're doing moralism. You're not doing leftist analysis. My answer to that is I support whatever movement advances the power of the working class. Do you admire Mao? Do you admire any revolution that's ever succeeded? Half of the revolutions that ever succeeded all the revolutions, that have ever succeeded had people who served in the literal fascist government they were fighting who decided to switch sides. Part of winning is making it so people want to switch to your side, that they reconsider what they've done. If you make it impossible, if you're trying to brand scarlet letters on people, that's fucking liberalism. They just want us to concede to something on their end. Yes, hypothetical blathering instead of reality. Hypothetical blathering is a sign of low IQ, by the way. Just so you this is just something that you should know. If you cannot make your argument flanked by actual reality and you only can talk about politics through hypotheticals, then you are undereducated. That's actually true. And it's one of those things that you're grasping at hypotheticals because you cannot with reality and history, because you don't have it. You don't have a mastery of it. I can make your same argument, except with the facts flanked by history. Marsh selfie with Birdie is Hope Core. Okay. All right, let's keep watching let's finish the Prince Andrew as a fucking pedophile who's arrested, which is based. Plattner is pushing shipbuilding gap versus China, which is just repurposed missile gap Kissinger rhetoric. Plattner just said that he doesn't want to. Did he just say something positive about China yesterday? Didn't Plattner just say he didn't want to have a conflict with China yesterday? I would support that person because ICE is unpopular, because objectively speaking, the U.S. Army veteran who served 3 times in Iraq is worse. Incorrect. The entire purpose of ICE is fascism. There's also the U.S. like serving in the military of your nation is completely different than serving in the Gestapo of a country. And if you don't understand why, you are firmly disconnected from society in a way that is like going to take more than 5 minutes of me talking to like hook you back in. Employees in China take as much cash as they can count at the company gala. Yeah, in China they have rules for profit share.
如果飞不完干啥呢？你准备拿回家？反正我说没准备要，拿过来就要飞光。再拿200万。
Yeah, they have rules for profit sharing. So, battle royale profit share. It's the SS versus Wehrmacht. I mean, no. I mean, honestly, the Wehrmacht is committed the Holocaust too. It's just nonsense. I'm not trying to say the U.S. military is good. The U.S. military is bad. But you're talking lifestyleism. You're talking moralism. That's liberalism. That's not talking about a constructive movement. And I don't like Graham Plattner because he was a veteran. I like Graham Plattner for the positions he currently holds and the alternative of him losing and what that would mean for our politics. He's out there saying the right thing about everything that pops up. He's out there speaking out against the intervention in Venezuela. Does anybody have the clip of the stream he did yesterday? No? Could no one find it for me? Let's finish this.
At the Royal Lodge within the grounds of Windsor Great Park, which is not too far away from Windsor Castle.
Helen, I'm going to now take us back to the statement from the King, because we've only just heard that in the last few minutes. It's on the screen for those who want to refresh their memories, but I will just read this part of it. Let me state clearly, the King has said, the law must take its course. As this process continues, it would not be right for me to comment further on this matter. An extraordinary statement from the King, basically telling us that this is the law and the law must take its course.
Well, exactly, and you'll cast your mind back not long ago when the King put out a previous statement saying that they were, or Buckingham Palace rather, said that the palace was standing ready to support Thames Valley Police in any investigation that they...
One, go. Hey, everybody. Especially to fight challenges like climate change. But
which actually brings me to another question, and a good time to dig a hole, perhaps. It seems society has collectively turned their eyes away from the realities of climate change, let alone seriously addressing it. How can we change course, take it as seriously as it deserves? Maybe why don't you drill a hole?
Sure.
It keeps me up at night.
Me too. I mean, before the rise of fascism, I would have said that the biggest challenge we have in the United States or globally is climate change. But now we have, armed thugs murdering American citizens in the streets. So I feel like we have to deal with that in the short term.
There's too many things to deal with.
So many things to deal with.
It's an electric auger. It's an incredible piece of kit.
Well, actually, which is kind of perfect because the answer is our renewable energy sources as part of, I would say...
Okay, somebody gave me a clip.
It's a huge issue.
Got another one here. Big fan of Graham. His platform says he wants to close the massive shipbuilding gap. People see this as posturing against China. So I'm curious what he thinks the U.S. position toward China should be.
Oh, I think our position towards China should be one of cooperation instead of one of opposition. I mean, in many ways, because that's what it is already. We just pretend that it isn't. I mean, I think we pretend that because it's good for the military-industrial complex. Politically, for some people, I think they want to see a continued multipolar world in which we have to always be in some form of aggressive, almost war posture, much like we had against the Soviet Union, which I just see as absurd because China, we rely on many of the cheap goods China builds. China relies on us to buy them. We have a very integrated economy, which we pretend isn't happening. I will just say that for shipbuilding, we are a nation with 2 C's on both sides of us. The Navy has always been very important. We have, in living memory, created a Navy that is powerful, but frankly doesn't effectively conduct its day-to-day operations in the most efficient manner. We need smaller ships. We need more frigates and we need more destroyers. And we have ceased doing. I mean, recently, everybody saw the Trump administration wants to build battleships again, which is just, literally absurd.
The Battle of Jutland Straits is going to happen.
That's right.
Again.
We're going back to Jutland. Ship's the line, man.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a matter of, we do need a substantial Navy, I think, but less about the one we have now is built to project an immense amount of force globally. I think realistically, a Navy that would be suiting our needs would be one that would essentially be able to conduct itself almost as like a Coast Guard in more methods, and without losing the capability. I would love for us to be in a world where I don't think that we require like our carrier fleets, but I don't think we're in that world quite yet. I don't think we're in that world at all, actually.
Yeah.
But I do think that when I talk about expanding the Navy, what I mean is building a lot of smaller ships that are more effective in day-to-day operations and just more efficient. Right now we have Arleigh Burke-class destroyers acting as frigates. They're good. They function well. It's a great ship. It's a great hull, but they have big crews and they're expensive. And they're expensive to maintain, they're expensive to operate, and often they're just out there doing things that a smaller frigate should probably be doing.
Be better at.
They'll be much better at.
Yeah.
Be faster, have smaller crews, be more efficient. So, so it's not. No, I am not a China hawk, not by any stretch of the imagination. I think we need to be figuring out how to integrate, or at least be far more cooperative. Especially to fight challenges like climate change.
Oh, is that not the most perfect answer someone could ever get while running for office in the United States of America? Damn. Okay, well, next bad faith lie that people are going to make up. What's the next bad faith lie?
Yes, I would very much like to see a normalization of relations with Cuba. I think we also need to remove the blockade. It's honestly childish. We have tried to destroy that country because we were mad about the fact it went to a different model of government and a different model of economic understanding than ours. Much like the whole we try to break something and then we get to point at it and say that it doesn't work. I think that's exactly what we've done to Cuba. And it is, I think it's unconscionable, and it's frankly childish.
Yeah.
It's also utterly absurd that it went on for as long as it did. I have a lot of criticisms of the Obama administration. Something I think was just fundamentally a good move.
Yeah.
Was right off the bat just saying we are going to normalize relations with Cuba. And so no, I think we absolutely.
Now, the idea of spending less money on the Navy by building small frigates, those are for things like preventing drug smuggling or preventing piracy. It's not intended for wars against other powers. They are light ships. They can't go and do it. You know what I mean? Arguing we should be building small ships. That is a better alternative. I guess people just don't think we need a military. I get it. They want someone to go up and say, we should dismantle the military completely. No military for the U.S. We're a goddamn cake. America whipped. Now, we should cut the military funding. We should do a peace. Because if we're in cooperation with China, they spend less money on their military. We spend less money on our military. You understand? You understand? That's a good thing. He wants to lift the blockade on China, normalize relations with he wants to cooperate with China and normalize relations with Cuba. Normalize relations. Not just lift the blockade, normalize relations. Come friendly. I guess that's not worth it. Anyway, we should let Janet Mills the Zionist win instead. We should talk about that.
Needed to be carried out, but
60% of Hassan's chat did not know what a Totenkopf was. I personally come down on the side that he later learned what it was, but he was too fucking lazy to get it covered because it's under his fucking shirt. Who fucking cares? Nobody knows what that is. That's the answer. He's a dumb fuck. He probably learned what it was. He was like, it's under my shirt. Who cares? Even after his politics changed. And like a dumb fuck, he didn't get it changed. So I'm glad he got it covered. I'm glad he apologized. I've been watching him since then. And he could have tacked to the right. He could have said like, oh, fuck these lefties. They hate me. Fuck these online lefties. They've been criticizing me too much. He could have tacked to the right. But on every single time I say, hey, what's Graham Plattner saying about this event? He's saying the right answer. So at a certain point, I mean, what are you going to do? He's not taking the opportunity to left punch as far as I'm aware. Every step of the way, he has posted the right response. So at a certain point, I think a lot of people have just like made it their identity to be against AOC and against Graham Plattner. And there's nothing that they can say. There's nothing that they can do that is going to make these people change. They have a conclusion. They want to hate these people. And that's the conclusion. They don't care about anything else. And then these same dumb fucks will go and tell you how good Ro Khanna is, or tell you how good John Ossoff is, or Mark Kelly, or Gretchen Whitmer, or any of these other Zionist right-wingers. And it's like, it'd be one thing if you were just like, I fucking hate all politicians. Never vote. Hashtag propaganda of the deed. Hashtag black flag. Hashtag anarchism will win. Like, if you're that type of person, okay, fine. Can you stop posting about every single AOC tweet? If that's who you are, post about your newest technique to clean yourself without showering. Do a sweat tent and scraper get clean with me or whatever the fuck. Tell me your favorite brand of patchouli oil. Like, stop posting about every single Zohran Mamdani and AOC policy discussion. They're leftist LARPers. They genuinely think nothing can be done under a bourgeois democracy, so I'll just sit at home and shout on Twitter. Yeah, I know. It's so great. It's such a great position because you get to be a lazy piece of shit while also posturing in your own mind like you're some sort of moral sage who knows more about the world than other people, which is very funny. That's more hippie coded, not anarchist. It's the same as the Hassan hating Kaya shocking accusers. It's part of who it's all the same shit. It's the same thing with me. People insult me with the same DGG talking points. And then they get mad when Hassan gets this DGG talking points. It's like a person will post a DGG talking point about me and then get mad that somebody posts a Hassan talking point about Kaya. It's like you spread their shit. You like their shit when it's about Mike. I do think there are anti-bourgeois alternatives. PSL gives me hope, and so do the UK Greens. One of those is not like the other. The UK Greens have actually elected people to parliament. The UK Greens are actually, the Labour Party is collapsing and the UK Greens are growing as their alternative. PSL, as much as I love them and I voted for them, has not had that kind of, because in America, people on the left are not going through a third party. They're going through DSA and Democratic primaries because Democratic primaries are open. So you don't have to do anything. Whereas in the UK, to be nominated, you have to take over a party. So you have to be nominated by your local party for the race. So in order for you, there's a lot more stuff that's imposed from the top down. And to be a member of a party in the UK, you have to pay money. To be a member of a party in the US, you don't. So in America, the move is to win the Democratic primary because that is the way to power if you actually want to win the election. Whereas in the UK, the Labour Party is foreclosed from the left. Green Party already had won power, and so people are shifting into it. If Bernie Sanders tried to start a third party, I'd join it right now. That's what I'm advocating for. That's what I'm arguing for. It's like you look out onto the political, a third party is not going to spring up because I say it should stop. It won't. I can't make history happen. If we actually had like a bunch of very prominent political figures starting that third party, then I would join in and I would say, that's the time. Now is the time. I'm already convinced the Democratic Party is too corrupt. But I also understand, I have the humility to understand that the masses are not where I'm at. So what am I going to do? Ignore them and just sit here ranting like a fucking lunatic? Or am I going to readdress myself to where the masses are? We can make it happen, actually. You are supporting a guy with a Nazi tattoo. No, he doesn't. He covered the Nazi tattoo. He covered the Nazi tattoo at a certain point. Which brings us to Bernie Sanders' interview with before we let's watch this next. Steve Bannon and Epstein texts, and then we'll talk about Bernie Sanders' interview.
The Department of Justice also released a 2-hour video of Bannon interviewing Epstein for a potential documentary. This is Bannon asking about Epstein's time spent in prison in 2008.
You're telling me that during that day, you never had a moment you sat there and go, what the f have I done with my life that I'm in a 6x9 jail cell?
You're suggesting I was somewhat depressed, and how could this happen to me?
I'm not saying depressed. I'm saying a moment of awareness of how could I get myself into this situation.
No, I would just say how strange that this happened. It's strange. People would either ask to borrow money or make some other types of comments about.
In
the beginning.
What were the comments? At the beginning, what were the comments?
It serves you rich guys that you're here next to me.
There was nothing about your crimes. So all this rumor you hear all the time about people in prison that commit the type of crimes you commit, you're saying in your personal thing is not true. It was all because you were rich.
And Bannon did not return messages from CNN, but said in a statement to the New York Times that his communication with Epstein was all done to, quote, secure 50 hours of interviews from a reclusive subject. For more on this, I want to bring in David Urban, former Trump campaign advisor and CNN senior political commentator. David, great to see you. You're shaking your head. I want to get to why in just a second. You know, the 25th Amendment reference from the Epstein files has caused some uproar inside the magosphere. It's dated December 31st, 2018, and it's a text exchange between Bannon and Epstein. And we should note the context is unclear, but Bannon says going to blow him up right out of the box. White House has zero plans to punch back. Fort Apache with no cavalry en route. Jeffrey Epstein then says in No Soldiers in the Fort, he is really borderline, not sure what he may do. And then Bannon replies, I think it's beyond borderline 25th Amendment. Now, we reached out to Bannon on this exchange and have not received a response, but people like Roger Stone and Marjorie Taylor Greene are speaking out. So tell me about why you were shaking your head and tell me what you were hearing inside.
All right. One more thing about Platter before I go. If you are a type of person who doesn't understand why it's important that Plattner wins, I'm going to explain it to you really quick. If you don't agree with this going forward, I don't think that you're really engaging with politics in a serious way. Graham Plattner represents an anti-war, anti-Zionist, anti-AIPAC, pro-union, structural left candidate who's good on every single issue that we bring up. And and he would be the best senator we've got. Now, I have my criticisms of him. I think that the tattoo is dumb as fuck. I think it's embarrassing. I'm not attracted to him because he's a veteran. I think I consider that to be not good. However, regular people do like that shit. And so when a veteran comes out and speaks out against the military-industrial complex, against the war in Iran, against the interventions in Venezuela, against blockading Cuba, against the genocide in Gaza, regular normies consider that to have extra weight, not less. Now, I'm not saying that we should pick veterans. I'm not the Democratic Party. They love active CIA agents. But part of what it will take to end the Gaza genocide is that American politicians are scared of losing their jobs because they support Israel. The only way to make them scared of losing their jobs is for the anti-Israel politicians to actually win some seats. Do you understand? If you actually want to oppose Israel, then people need to go into governmental power in the United States who are against supporting Israel. That's why AIPAC spends all that money to elect politicians, because that's what matters. They wouldn't be doing it fucking giggles. They're doing it because it's important for them to get the money. That's why they hate AOC. That's why they hate Bernie Sanders. That's why they hate Graham Plattner. That's why they hate these candidates, because they represent a fundamental shift from a bipartisan Slavish defense of Israel and they get a blank check to a world where Israel doesn't exist as an apartheid state. If that's not valuable enough, if your ego, if your personal brand is more important than stopping the genocide, just tell me. It'd be what, like, if I don't oppose, I would be perfectly comfortable opposing someone who is pro-Israel. That's I understand completely. But if somebody's anti-Israel and then you're looking for reasons not to support them, are you fucking insane? There's a genocide going on. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Maine is currently represented by one of the most virulent Zionists in the entire world. And you have an anti-Zionist who's leading? And you're like, how do I figure out a way? How do I throw this election to a Zionist? How do I throw this election to a Zionist? You think that's going to help the people? You think that's a good idea? So you're saying we should have voted Kamala was in favor of the genocide? If Kamala Harris sounded like Graham Plattner, she would have won, and I would have voted for her. If Kamala Harris was out there saying Medicare for all, Green New Deal, I hate the genocide in Gaza, I hate AIPAC, I would have fucking campaigned for her hardcore. Of course I would have. I opposed her because she was a genocide supporter. Now, other people said Donald Trump is such a threat, even though she has a terrible position on Israel, I still am going to vote against Trump. And you know what? Do you not see the world? Elected Trump has made it worse than it was under Biden. Biden committed genocide. Biden committed crimes. But Donald Trump is also doing all those things, and it's worse. You can't deny that. That's just facts. And it's like, oh man, you were an anti-Zionist, but you know, did you know this guy had a bad tattoo? I'm sorry. I had to let the Zionist win because this guy had a bad tattoo that he got covered. What are you talking about? I think some people are afraid he's going to pull a Fetterman. I'm going to tell you something. You need to grow the fuck up. People are going to betray you. Do you think that winning movements never have people that betray them? You think winning movements never have treacherous people? Have you read a fucking book? The United States is in the American Revolution. One of America's most important generals betrayed the revolution and went and joined the British. His name is Benedict Arnold. It happens all the fucking, get over it. You're going to get betrayed. I'm not saying don't look for traitors. I'm not saying that traitors aren't bad. Of course they're bad. But John Fetterman never said he was an anti-Zionist. And honestly, he got a lot worse than he campaigned. He lied to us. He betrayed us. And now we hate his guts. That's all we can do. Sometimes you're going to get betrayed. Grow the fuck up. It's going to happen. This is like having a bad relationship when you're in high school and then never dating again. Like, it's going to happen. Part of being an adult is being robust and going, that person sucks, fuck them, and then moving on. Our movement needs to do that as well. Mike, you got to remember, the youth was but defeated once. Well, listen, we lost Bernie Sanders, and part of the reason we lost is because Bernie Sanders is a pussy. Bernie Sanders was a good starter, but he's a pussy. The main, and I'm going to talk about how much of a pussy Bernie Sanders is when we watch the Hassan interview of Bernie Sanders. In fact, let's watch that now. Bernie Sanders is a pussy. I get to say that because he's not coming on my show, as far as I know. And that's why he lost. He lost because he's a soft. He's soft. That's the truth. He's the type of person who's a left-winger because they're nice. Doesn't have the fight in him. Same problem with Jeremy Corbyn. They're soft.
Our way to see Bernard Sanders. You guys might know him. He's a little-known guy, independent senator from Vermont, caucus with the Democrats, ran for president in 2016 and 2020. And we are going to be conducting a very short and sweet interview with Vermont Senator Bernard Sanders. He's in the state of California this week. He is going to be appearing in Stanford alongside Ro Khanna to speak about AI. But today's events are of a different note. Today's events are going to be around Senator Bernard Sanders speaking out against billionaires.
Hey, how are you?
Bernie.
Good to see you again.
I like Bernie Sanders. I think he's a fighter. But Hassan Piker is going to ask him, what do you think of Gavin Newsom? And Bernie Sanders, like a pussy, punts. Gavin Newsom has said he opposes the tax the rich bill or referendum. Hey, Inkar, thanks for the 10. This is the problem with the left-wing movement. The left-wing movement is full of too many pussies. And when the left-wing movement in America is vicious, do you know who they're vicious to? AOC and Zohran Mamdani. That's where all their bile comes out. That's where all their rage comes out. The rage doesn't come out for Alyssa Slotkin. The rage doesn't come out for Abigail Spanberger. Their rage doesn't come out for the 90 fucking Zionists in the Senate.
Good to see you again as well. I've been good. I'm going to give you this microphone real quick. Sure. Here, I can put it on if you want. Yep. All right. Right there. All right. So the last time we talked,
It was at the oligarchy tour.
I remember. It was in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
Yep.
in Nevada.
Yep.
And we didn't have a lot of time. We don't have a lot of time today, too. You're a very busy guy. you're all around the country. You're touring.
Okay, the Hassan saying, I'm giving you a gift. Forgetting his pin and then confessing to Bernie that he forgot the pin is the most neurodivergent shit I've ever seen. If I didn't think Hassan was autistic before this interview confirmed it to me. This interview absolutely 100,000 quadrillion % confirmed it to me. Because it's like, bro, he doesn't care you forgot the pin again. What are you doing? What are you doing?
Going everywhere, and today you're going to be talking about taxing the billionaires, something that you're very fond of, something that you've been talking about for quite a while. What are you doing in California?
Doing two things, both I think enormously important. Tonight I'll be speaking on this billionaire tax initiative that the unions are bringing forward, and I think it's enormously important. As I'm sure you know, never before in American history have we had the kind of income and wealth inequality that we have right now. Got to deal with that reality. You got 1% owning more wealth than the bottom 93%. You got one guy, Mr. Musk, one man owning more wealth than the bottom 53% of American households. Does that make sense to anybody? And meanwhile,
honestly, I don't think 53% really hits. I don't think it really hits. Elon Musk owns more wealth than the equivalent of every single person living in California, New York, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Florida. Think about the entire population. When you're out on the fucking highway and it's a fucking traffic jam, as far as the eye can see, Elon Musk has more wealth than everyone you could possibly see combined. I don't think you guys really get 53%. You could stand on the Griffith Observatory and look out, and as far as I could see in Los Angeles, California, every single person's wealth combined does not equal Elon Musk. Do you get it?
under Trump, these billionaires are becoming richer, and guess what? Many of them pay very little and sometimes nothing in taxes. You probably pay an effective tax rate that is higher based on your income than the billionaires do. So it's insane. And these guys own, increasingly, they own media, there's more concentration of ownership, and they own the political process, making massive campaign contributions. So what this is about is saying to the billionaire class, you know what? Trump gave you and your friends $1 trillion in tax breaks. And at the same time, they cut health care by $1 trillion. 15 million Americans, including 3 million here in California, are going to lose their health care in order to give tax breaks to people who don't need it. That's why I'm here. Enough is enough.
Yeah. So there is one person, the governor of California, that is actually quite critical of the billionaire's tax. Do you have a message for Gavin Newsom?
No, he does what he does. He and I disagree on the issue. And that's about it.
Okay. All right. I am a little bit more critical than you are, I guess, at least.
So you're not as nice a guy as I am. That's about it.
That's true. That's true. Exactly. What do you think about...
Okay, hold on. I need to hear this answer over time.
15 million Americans, including 3 million here in California, are going to lose their health care in order to give tax breaks to people who don't need it. That's why I'm here. Enough is enough.
Yeah. So there is one person, the governor of California, that is actually quite critical of the billionaire's tax. Do you have a message for Gavin Newsom?
No, he does what he does. He and I disagree on the issue. And that's about it.
Okay.
This is what I call cowardice. This is point blank cowardice. It's dog shit. It's crap. It's cowardly. He's dodging the fight. Meanwhile, centrists are out there trashing them 24/7. And this is why he lost. He lost because he can't call out an enemy. He can't call out an enemy and say, hey, if you think the billionaires have too much power, Gavin Newsom doesn't agree with you. Gavin Newsom is joining with the Republicans and the billionaires to fight against the tax on the rich. Gavin Newsom is against you. What the fuck are we talking about here? There's no penalty for going against AOC or Bernie Sanders. These guys, this is pathetic. This is actually pathetic. I know exactly why Bernie is doing that cowardly answer. He's hedging against Newsom as the nominee, which makes it more likely that Newsom will be the nominee. Bro, you're 85 years old. Cash in the chips. Speak your fucking mind. How many more years of lucidity do you even have left? Gavin Newsom is despised. He's fucking despised. -10? He's fucking garbage. This is Hillary Clinton numbers. What are we doing?
Okay. All right. I am a little bit more critical than you are, I guess, at least.
So you're not as nice a guy as I am. That's about it.
That's true. That's true. Exactly. What do you think about the movement that you've been a part of your whole life that has now grown in size and in popularity? 33% of the Democratic Party's base of support now are self-described democratic socialists. There have been electoral victories for the likes of
Mamdani's victory in New York and Analia Mejia's victory in New Jersey. Extraordinary. And great candidates are running all over this country. So to answer your question, I feel very excited about that. And if you ask me why I am optimistic about the future, it is precisely because of great candidates who are coming up, who are prepared to take on the oligarchs. As you know, we did a fighting oligarchy tour, I think in 24 states, 350,000 people came out. Not only Democrats, you got Republicans, you got independents. People are sick and tired of a country where the people on top have it all, while 60% of our people live in paycheck to paycheck. I grew up in a family lived paycheck to paycheck. I know what that's about. People can't afford health care, they can't afford food, they can't afford child care, they can't afford housing. And the rich get incredibly richer. People are saying enough is enough.
Do you feel like internally within the Democratic Party there is this resistance from establishment Democrats towards this sort of change? I like to call it the left flank candidates.
Is that a serious question?
Yeah.
Are you asking, is there opposition?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course there's opposition.
Yeah.
You know, that's what the struggle is about. The progressive part of the Democratic Party, I'm an independent caucusing with the Democrats, have the crazy idea that maybe we should represent the vast majority of the American people who work for a living and don't have a lot of money. But there are others in part of the Democratic establishment who prefer to spend their time getting campaign contributions from very wealthy people and developing policies which represent those people and certainly do not represent working people. So that is the debate that's going on within the Democratic Party. Now, where there is unity is the need to defeat in every way possible the efforts of the most dangerous president in the history of this country, Donald Trump. And I think to the degree that we can work together in the 2026 elections to defeat Republicans and hopefully return the Democrats to power in the House, maybe the Senate, that's the goal.
So one of the arguments that was unfairly launched against you over and over again in both 2016 and in 2020 was that you were not electable, that the electability argument was on the side of centrist Democrats, more moderate figures. I've been all around the country. I've been all around the world these past couple of years, but especially in the United States of America, both in the oligarchy tour, the No Kings protests that have taken place all around.
7 million people coming out in one day?
Yeah, and the ICE resistance that took place in many places, including Minnesota. The one common thing that I hear from people from all different walks of life is that they are sick and tired of what the Republicans are doing, but they're also very frustrated with the Democrats. And the polling shows that reality as well. There's tremendous dissatisfaction with the Democratic Party at a time when, as the only other viable mainstream party, they're supposed to automatically see a boost in their popularity. Do you feel like the electability argument is turning on its head and more people are finally coming on board with your message, with our message, with the message that centers working class individuals rather than the endless need to moderate for the mythical moderate voter?
The short answer is yes. I absolutely believe that. I think what people are seeing now with their own eyes is not only the ugliness and the obscenity of the Trump administration in so many respects, whether it's ICE, whether it's economics, whether it's healthcare and all that. What they are seeing is a nation in which incredible wealth and power are resting in the hands of a few. And that, by the way, is what this Tax the Billionaires campaign is about. I don't think these guys, the billionaires, are staying up nights worrying that they have to pay a few $1 billion more in taxes. They're richer than anyone can imagine. You know what they're worried about? They're worried about that working people are saying, sorry, we are going to stand up to you. You can't have it all. You don't own this country.
I think it's more so the message, you're right, that or the audacity of hope. The people that feel as though their politicians will be responsive for the first time ever, and that change is possible, rather than the business as usual politics that they keep hearing about. That
is exactly the
Republicans
point.
to win.
Business as usual is finished. Trump is not business as usual. Elon Musk is not business as usual. So what we need to do, and and I think back on Jesse Jackson, just passed the other day, who in many ways helped create this movement, is that we've got to come together, black and white and Latino and Asian and gay and straight. We've got to bring our people together to stand up to the oligarchs. And in the wealthiest country.
My only opinion is that left-wing media candidates like AOC, Mamdani, Plattner, Lee, Omar, Tlaib need to spend a lot more time going on left-wing alternative media regularly. That would make more sense. The left-wing media were not full of absolute fucking grifters who know fucking nothing. I mean, like, honestly, it's more that the quality is so poor. Like getting, like I'm sorry, but it's true. Like, who are they going on? Like, so people can lie about them, so people can slander them. It's weird.
On earth, create the kind of nation that we can have. Healthcare is a human right. Yes, we can build millions of units of affordable housing. Yeah, we can have the best educational system in the world. We once used to. You know what? Maybe we invest in it.
Fuck it, split the Democrats. Who cares? The problem is, if we could split the Democrats, I would be doing it. But winning is what gets people to join. That's what you guys don't understand. After Bernie Sanders lost, DSA lost like 35% of their members after 2020. Outside campaigns that succeed are what drives socialist growth. It's not, internal organization. It's not book clubs. It's not this other shit. It's having campaigns, electoral and otherwise, that galvanize the community and win. That's what boosts the fucking left. We need to be doing more of that. That's what we need to be doing more of. And it's not even debatable. That's not true at all. Post 2020, DSA was larger than it ever was. Nope. DSA was dropping off. After Bernie Sanders, the height of his campaign, it started declining. After the George Floyd protests, after the presidential campaign, going into 21, 22, it was all negative. How do I know? I've been there since the fucking beginning. There was a massive fucking fall off. And I'm not saying we've recovered. We've recovered since then. With Zoran's campaign, with people coming back to DSA after Trump was elected. We have some exciting shit that's happening. It's all on the upswing. People are coming to DSA for the anti-ICE organizing. All this shit is good news. That's all great. But it's those external campaigns that have been successful. And when they're successful, that's when the left grows. And when they fail, losing begets losing. 2022 and 2023 was declining. Exactly. Think about it. If somebody joined in 2020, when do they fall off? Think about how you do your annual fucking memberships, or you do a monthly. When is it? It's gonna fall off after January. 2021, 2022. That's the Joe Biden depression. State of DSA. AOC wins primary, big boost. COVID lockdown, George Floyd uprisings, DSA hits 100K. And then it's a decline. Roe v. Wade overturned, briefly went positive for like 1 or 2 months. And then it was negative. Then Trump got elected and it surged. And you know what was the next big surge? Does this include the Zoran election? No, it doesn't. It doesn't have the Zoran election. We need to have the Zoran election. And you can see Zoran leads to another surge. Okay, I'm reading this. What drives people to join are those external events. Trump winning, AOC winning the primary, George Floyd uprisings, Bernie Sanders primary rally. Like, look at how much growth there was while Bernie was running. From 20, like, you could see the Bernie Sanders running. It was all positive. I don't get why chatters can't wrap their heads around people liking winners and winning. It's because they're trying to posture as if they're intellectual, and they're most of these people came into this type of shit from Bernie Sanders' campaign. Most people became leftists because of Bernie Sanders. Like, it's an objective fucking fact. Like 90% of people that identify now as socialists did so because Bernie Sanders campaigned in 2016 and 2020. And when AOC won, that was a huge W because that was one member of our generation. That's the important point to understand. That's the reality to understand. But it doesn't mean we have to be beholden to them forever. It just means we have to have our own campaigns, whether they are ICE patrols, whether they are mutual aid, whether they're electoral or issue campaigns. We need to be externally focused. That's what draws people in. And that's also what gives them something to do. I don't know about you, but if I go to a DSA and they're not doing anything but fucking political education and book clubs, that DSA is fucking pointless. DSA published a 48-page research paper on membership, and the conclusion was recruitment is predominantly passive and externally driven. It's not passive. We're doing shit, but DSA is doing that shit. Zohran Mamdani was a DSA candidate. AOC is a DSA candidate. Their growth was our growth. That was our shit. That was us doing politics in the real world. That's what it was. The endorsement of Bernie Sanders, that was us doing our politics in the world. That wasn't passive. That was us acting. It wasn't because we sent out a flyer and said, seems like you might want to join DSA. People came to DSA.
In education, not in ICE. So I that's what this whole movement is about, and I am not
I want to become a member of my local DSA. Man, it seems useless. It's a bunch of suburban white people from outside the city that ignore organizing in any POC or actual poor urban environments. I gotta be honest with you, dude. That sounds like some rad lib bullshit to me. Are you white? Like, who gives a fuck? Instead of saying, oh, you don't have enough black people here. How about you get out there and figure out issue campaigns that are going to bring the black community in? Instead of trying to be Mr. Critiquer who doesn't do anything, unorganized leftist, why don't you go out there and propose programs that are going to draw people in? Why don't you go participate in some shit? I've always found that criticism of DSA to be very weird. You know what's also whiter than the organization? The Democratic Party establishment is fucking whiter than the Democratic Party as a whole. Congratulations, you figured it out. Upper middle class white people have more time on their hands for volunteering and shit. You figured it out. Instead of you going, I don't know, DSA doesn't have enough brown people in it. Why don't you go and try to organize in communities? Why don't you make that your fucking goal? Why don't you make that your job? Why is it somebody else's job? I'll only join an org when it rises to my standards. Who the fuck are you? Just get out there and start doing shit. And yes, you know why there's not as many brown or black people in socialist organizations? Because there was something called the Red Scare. And they shot and killed all the prominent black socialist leaders with guns. And in America, we have a segregated society with structural barriers to keep black and brown people separated from white communities. Instead of turning it and going like, why has a DSA solved racism on its own? Why don't you get out there and roll your fucking sleeves up? It's just a category error. It's a way of looking at politics to me that is about giving yourself permission to abstain. Instead of giving yourself permission to abstain, give yourself permission to participate. The chatter is wrong. I'm in DSA. The Browns will never outnumber the whites. It doesn't even matter, man. Don't even give them that. Don't even engage with that level of stupid fucking argument. It's pointless. They're trying to do the same thing with Zohran right now, going like, oh, black people don't like Zohran, when it's a couple establishment patronage people that are losing their fucking sinecure. And they're playing this racial game to participate, smearing people that actually fight against racial apartheid. It's like, what the fuck? DSA has what is pro fucking reparations. If white people are joining that organization, that's fucking great. That's white people fixing their own shit. Stop looking at minorities like a fucking Funko Pop for you to collect. This is something white liberals do. Okay, I'm gonna be spicy. Spicy Mike. Here's something that white liberals do. White liberals like to do collect them all Pokemon, except it's with tokens. It's like, I have a black friend, I have a Hispanic friend, I have an Asian friend, I have a Jewish friend, I have a Muslim friend, they're hijabi, I have a blah, blah, blah. And it's like, shut the fuck up! Do the work! Do the fucking work! Instead of going, my selfie doesn't have enough brown faces in it. I'm not sure I can do the brake light clinic or whatever the fuck. Who do you think gets pulled over for having a, who do you think is more likely to get a ticket for having a broken tail light? A white man or a black man? Assume all things are equal. Same model of car, same mileage, same condition, same street. A white man gets pulled over for having a busted taillight, and a black man gets pulled over for having a busted taillight. Who the fuck gets the ticket? It's the black man. So if a bunch of white people go and set up a clinic to fix people's taillights free of charge, they are directly working against that system. And it's small, but it's about fighting back against the carceral state through mutual aid, doing what we can when we can. I'm so tired of this fucking argument. Is there a socialist organization that is black-led that I am not aware of that needs more support? That's the other thing that bothers me, is people have no critique that actually gives action items. That's how I know you're not an organizer. This is how you could tell someone's a fucking talker and not a doer. Doers give you action items. This is organizing 101. They give you things you can do. Talkers, annoying fucks, they never give you anything to do. They never give you any place to be. They never give you anything. It's just blah, 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 blah. They also need to reach out to people they know are persecuted so they know the aid is available. Well, I mean, that's what they do. But again, look, it's just, I think one of the things that happens is like, anytime someone is constructive, anytime someone is fighting the good fight, they're on the left, they're doing good work, there's a cacophony of people that come out and say, you're not doing all the work, therefore I'm not participating. You're not solving every problem, therefore you're not good enough for me. It's very, very interesting how that cope happens. Instead of looking for reasons that a thing is good, people are looking for a reason to give themselves permission to do nothing. What the fuck is that? Mike, you will like this article. Men make their own history, Marx wrote, but they do not make it as they please. They do not make it under self-selected circumstances, but under circumstances existing already, given and transmitted from the past. The committee has grasped only the second half of this sentence. It sees the circumstances and calls them external events. It does not see that DSA made its own history within those circumstances. What happens in a period when there are no external campaigns? Here, the committee provides us with quantitative data. In the doldrums of the Biden presidency, DSA slowly declined to 51,000 members in October 2024. No campaigns, no growth. The committee records this fact, but does not analyze it. The committee's qualitative listening sessions make the case even more explicitly. Chapters that saw sustained membership growth tended to engage in public campaigns, whether by seeking to elect a new socialist in office or by supporting a particular ballot initiative or other issue-based campaign. These campaigns drove membership growth and tended to be clear, victory-focused campaigns oriented toward achieving a particular goal in a set period of time. That has always been my politics. Always been my politics. Now, I'm to the left of every single other person who says to support AOC. There is not one person to my left on the AOC support bandwagon, okay? I'm sitting there on the fucking caboose with one foot hanging off the back, okay? But the point that I'm trying to make is that her run will be good for the left, especially if she wins. And I expect her to piss me off. I expect her to do things I don't like. But the distance between what AOC is going to do to piss me off and what Gavin Newsom is going to do is a goddamn chasm. And it's on important shit like ending the blockade of Cuba. It's like ending the genocide in Gaza. It's like not having confrontations with fucking China. Chapters that lacked campaigns saw little to no recruitment outside of such periods. Some reported they did not mount public campaigns and instead found themselves in competition for new members with single issue groups such as environmental orgs, which absorb potential DSA recruits. When DSA offers no campaign, its potential recruits go to organizations that do offer campaigns. The absence of a campaign is not a challenge that can be addressed by a better orientation pipeline. It's the absence of the organization's reason to exist. And who could be surprised if an organization with no reason to exist begins to die? The committee has documented in its own qualitative findings that campaigns produce growth. It has then classified this growth as external to its framework. It incorrectly declares that DSA has not been able to actively create the conditions for attracting new members and relegated the fundamental question, what external tactics most effectively recruit and politicize members, to a future work section as though it were a minor addendum. In 2015, DSA had 6,500 members, a notable but marginal organization by any measure. Then Bernie Sanders ran for president. Sanders did not run an orientation pipeline. He did not run a reading group. He ran a political campaign that named an enemy, proposed a program and asked millions of people to fight for it. DSA's membership surged. By the time of Trump's election, it had roughly tripled. In 2018, AOC, a DSA member running on DSA's endorsement with DSA volunteers on the doors, defeated a 10-term incumbent in a congressional primary. DSA's membership doubled again to nearly 60,000. No internal development program in the history of the organization has produced anything within an order of magnitude of that single campaign's effect on membership. In 2020, Bernie's second run generated another wave. Then George Floyd was murdered by Minneapolis police, and the largest protest movement in American history erupted across every major city in the country. Chapters across the country mobilized members into the streets, organized mutual aid, and joined coalitions with police accountability demands ranging from abolition to community control. This was not an external event that happened to DSA. It was a political crisis in which DSA members acted, and the organization's members surged past 90,000. The internal facing 100K membership drive launched in the same period rode the momentum of a membership already activated by struggle, but failed to realize its objective. From 2020 to 2024, during the Biden presidency, DSA ran fewer major campaigns and no galvanizing national fights were underway. So DSA slowly declined to 51,000 members in October 2024. The overturn of Roe v. Wade in 2020 generated a brief surge of activity, but not enough to reverse the general decline. The internal apparatus, the orientations, the one-on-ones, the reading groups, the social events, the onboarding pipelines was running the entire time. Chapters did not stop holding meetings. Steering committees did not stop meeting. Political education did not cease. The apparatus was fully operational, and the membership nearly halved. From 2024 to 2025, Trump's second election at Zohran Mamdani's historic mayoral campaign, a DSA campaign from beginning to end, ceased the decline and rapidly pushed DSA past 100,000 members for the first time. Do you understand my point? It is a fact. That's why I'm pro AOC running. Not because I agree with everything she's done. I'm fucking pissed at her for her mistakes. I'm pissed at her for not being more confrontational on a lot of issues where I think she would gain more popularity from it. But it's a fact. Issue-oriented and campaigns out where we actually try to achieve shit in the real world is what will drive people to the left. Victory begets victory. Defeat begets defeat. It's not even a fucking debate. It's a fact. And if you can't look at this and recognize that I'm right, then there's nothing that will help you. My chapter is wary of running campaigns unless they have a high chance of winning because they don't want to discourage members with losses. I think this is a bad strategy. IMO, thoughts? There are periods where DSA candidates and campaigns are not going to do well, and there are periods when they will do well. And so you maximize it. You get more greedy and more ambitious, like periods like now. And then in periods of decline, of setback, you are more conservative with your efforts. That's why when Joe Biden won, it was a disaster for the left. Joe Biden winning was a disaster for the left because he was against us and he was driving people away from left-wing politics. Whereas AOC winning will be fucking amazing for us, especially if we're seen as key to her victory. And the other thing is, I'm not saying let her be fucking right-wing. I'm not saying let her be shitty on policy. We should have constructive engagement with her. Actually, you know, and she's still going to do stuff that pisses us off. There isn't a clean answer to that question of how do we keep our politicians from pissing us off. Every major spike in DSA's membership corresponds to a political development. In all cases, a development that DSA itself participated in or created. Every period of decline corresponds to the absence of such developments. The internal apparatus is constant, politics is variable, and the GDC's data shows it is the only variable that can explain the outcomes. Politics drives DSA's growth, not logistics, not internal development, not consciousness raising, campaigns that contest for power, fights that have stakes, victories that change material conditions. These are what have built DSA from 6,500 members to 100,000. The orientation pipeline did not do this. The onboarding sequence did not do this. The reading group did not do this. The one-on-ones did not do this. The politics did this. It is not the consciousness of men that determines their being, but on the contrary, their social being determines their consciousness. Exactly! That's why DSA must run AOC now. And if you're not behind AOC, you have to give me an alternative to AOC. And if you don't want to run AOC, you got to give me an alternative. And if your alternative is anybody but a DSA member, you're a fucking moron. Literally. The working class does not first develop revolutionary consciousness and then act. It acts and strikes campaigns in moments of crisis, and through action develops the consciousness that makes further action possible. This is the most unsatisfying truth of being a leftist. That's why I talk about how we need to elect AOC. If you want further left at AOC, AOC must win. If you think AOC is not left enough, she must win, because that creates the conditions where people are going to be consciously left-wing and then see what stops her. Think the left's going to be what stops her from passing Medicare for all or whatever the fuck ever else you're worried about? No, it'll be the right-wing institutions. It will be that will be the frustration. And if you're worried like, well, she'll lose, she'll win, and she'll be a bad president, who gives a fuck? So what? We do everything we can to make her as good as she can. If she fails and fumbles, then that's what happened. We'll come again from a different strategy in a different time. You'll probably not live to see the next strat. You'll probably not live to see the next socialist wave. That's just the way it goes. If Ocasio-Cortez's victory generated 20,000 new members, the question is not how do we onboard 20,000 people through our existing apparatus. The question is how do we run 50 more campaigns like that? If the committee's own data shows that members brought into a chapter by a particular campaign often lapsed into inactivity when that campaign ended, it was not replaced by another such campaign. The question is how do we retain members between campaigns? The question is, why is there a gap between campaigns at all? Exactly! That's what I'm screaming at the top of my lungs to DSA LA. Run fucking congressional candidates now! Not tomorrow, now. I'm sorry for being so unhinged, but this is completely true, completely correct. I completely agree. Well written, well argued. It's just Marx describes a pattern that illuminates DSA's present crisis. The first phase of the proletariat struggle against the bourgeoisie is marked by a sectarian movement. That is logical at a time when the proletariat has not yet developed sufficiently to act as a class. So long as the sects are justified historically, the working class is not yet ripe for an independent historical movement. As soon as it has attained this maturity, all sects are essentially reactionary. The sect turns inward because it has nowhere else to turn. It develops its doctrine, cultivates its membership, refines its processes, and relates to the outside world primarily through interpersonal recruitment into itself. This is historically justified, even progressive, when there is no mass movement to participate in, no campaign to wage, no election to contest. When the conditions for mass political action exist, the sect's inwardness becomes a fetter. The committee's own data shows that DSA's growth derives not from its sect-like internal processes, but from its movement of class-like political action. The organization grows when it acts as a political force in the world and withers when it retreats into self-administration. Completely true. Mind-blowingly true. Completely true. There is no debate. The GDC report, for all its empirical rigor, is evidence that condemns the sectarian phase into history. It studies the organization's relationship to itself and finds correctly that this relationship no longer produces growth. The report ends with a call. Finally, we encourage everyone to take a scientific approach to organizing. We are all working together on a historic global group project. Do your part by reflecting critically on your own organizing experiences and collectively applying those lessons when planning for the future. This is no doubt, this is true. Let us take a scientific approach. The hypothesis was that improving internal chapter tactics could drive recruitment retention. The data refuted the hypothesis. A scientific approach requires we revise the hypothesis, not merely refine the experiment and hope for different results, as the GDC suggests. DSA has 100,000 members. It has elected socialist office across the country. It has played a leading role in the resurgent labor and in organizing and in the fight for Palestine. Every one of these achievements, the very achievements that produced the growth the committee now seeks to explain, was an act of external power. The committee's own data proves that DSA already knows how to grow. It grows when it fights. Internal development is not unimportant, but it is derivative. It derives its significance from the engagement with the class struggle and from nothing else. The internal apparatus can only exist to make the class struggle possible for no other reason. Completely true. Completely correct. GG is right. And that's the fight that I've been fighting. I haven't been saying this shit about AOC because I think she's God or I have a crush on her or some other fucking cringe. It's because I see what makes us grow is this fucking bald fuck. This elderly fuck who's too soft on the centrist devs. His campaign is what blew us up, okay? This was completely correct. And I have my criticisms. I have my criticisms of AOC. I have my criticisms of Zoran. There's things they're doing I don't agree with. I think he should have fired Tish. I think he should have come up with a better way to explain his homelessness program, because everybody's characterizing it as a sweep because he let ultras seize the conversation and spit it into a fucking negative. That, you know, and it's going to happen. Sometimes it's going to happen. You do something, ultras get to it first, they spit it into a negative, and then you're sat there with their fucking frame. The lesson to be learned is to not let ultras who are literally out to destroy Zoran. For what purpose? Honestly, I think they're suicidal and they're trying to find a reason to live. I mean, that's what it is. If chapters are too small to run political candidates, are organizing campaigns like labor and tenant organizing still effective at driving membership? No chapter is too small to run a state legislative campaign. No chapter is too small. If you have 10 people, you could run a state legislative campaign. You absolutely could. My new chapters will have Radlibs who have gotten our mutual aid work to be working with some local nonprofit that just donates food to some other nonprofit. I've submitted a resolution for doing break light clinics. Suggestions on deal with the Radlibs. Here's my suggestion. Look for a real political campaign that you can be involved in that is about class-based struggle. Can you elaborate on how small chapters can run candidates? Okay. Let's say that you're running for office in Pennsylvania. You want to run a state legislative campaign in Pennsylvania. Each member of Pennsylvania's General Assembly represents, I think, 70,000 people, last I checked. There are 202 districts in the state of Pennsylvania in the House. There is 50 in the Senate. Hold on. Let's pull a district up. District 200. This is in Philadelphia. Look at how small this district is. This is right outside of Philadelphia. Or, you know, a member to the House, to the General Assembly of Pennsylvania makes, I think, what, $85,000 a year? They represent 64,098 residents. He got 35,000 votes in 2024. Uncontested in the primary, uncontested in the general. At 99.6% of the vote. And guess what? Christopher Robb is a DSA member, I believe. 99.6% of the vote.
The power of the people is much greater than the people in power. That is what scares the status quo. I'm Chris Rabb. I'm a Democratic state lawmaker, and I'm running for Congress. When I declared my candidacy for state rep 10 years ago, the political establishment laughed at me. They called me crazy. They called me idealistic. Now they call me Rep Rabb. We can find common cause.
Raymond, wait.
For immigrants, for trans youth, incarcerated workers. We need to fully fund public transit, invest in universal health care, abolish ICE, and raise the federal minimum wage to a living wage for all. We must make sure our tax dollars go to our schools and not senseless wars. And now more than ever, billionaires and greedy corporations need to pay their fair share. The politicians said, you can't do that. You can't say that. That can't be part of your platform because they're going to come after you. Well, guess what? They're already coming after us. If we don't fight now, it's going to be too late. I'm running for transformative policies, even when it's controversial, even when it's dangerous, because our fates are intertwined. I stand in full solidarity with Palestinians. What's happening in Gaza is a genocide. As a candidate, if I pull back on Palestine, I've already lost because I wouldn't be running with integrity. And if I can't run with integrity, I have no business running at all. I'm a freedom fighter who descends from a long line of freedom fighters. Am I honoring my ancestors? Will my sons be proud of me? And if the answer is yes, I will have no regrets. Resistance without art, without beauty, without joy is not a resistance worth fighting. And these things are not painless, but the rewards will last for generations. I'm Chris Rabb, and I'm running for Congress.
And because, like, that's how simple it is. That's how simple it is. His top donors to his campaign were family members and the Carpenters Union and the Philadelphia Teachers Union. That's pretty standard for the left winger. SEIU, his family members, Black Progress PAC. Aggregated unitemized contributions means these are like cash contributions that are smaller than like $100. Here he primaried someone and won 10,000 votes. My point is this, is that you absolutely can run. These districts are winnable. If you have 10 people, so to get on the ballot, ballot requirements for PA general for Pennsylvania. Hold on. I'm trying to make this like more concrete for all of you. You want to run for the state house, you need 300 signatures. 360 signatures at $100. Now, those 300 signatures must be registered Democrats who live in your district. So it's not extremely easy, But you don't think 10 people could go out and get 30 signatures? We got 1,000 signatures for Rob for Congress in 12 hours on Tuesday. Philly DSA endorsed Chris Rob, got all his signatures to get on the ballot in 12 hours. He was the first candidate to file a PA. I had a great conversation outside City Hall. He even got 2 Republicans to switch their registration when they learned that Rob is a fuck ABAC, fuck ICE, free Palestine candidate. I was so happy to see Rob on the stream. He's awesome. Volunteering on this campaign has been an amazing experience so far. Oh, wow. Is a tier 3 listening to me and then living amazing life? Oh, is your life amazing if you just listen to me? Well, would you look at that? You just finding excuses and do what Mike says. Your life will be fucking amazing. You don't say. Wow. I've never heard that before. I went out and got 30 signatures for an interim town select board race in 2 hours. People know you in the community. You can get a lot of signatures extremely quickly. Yes, of course. That's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is even if you have a small DSA, there are campaigns and things that you can work on, that you can do. And if you lose, guess what? You learned a fucking lesson. You learned what not to do. You learn who the power brokers are because they'll come out. That's the thing. If things are unchallenged, then who's in power could be quieted down. But when you actually challenge the status quo, the power brokers have to expose themselves. You'll learn how your city and state actually run. Who's in control? Who are the allies? Who are the sympathizers? Who are your enemies? And who are the demons? You will learn all that shit from the process of doing it. Would you be willing to help support a fundraiser for Cuba? Yeah, of course. It depends on who's doing it. I want to make sure it's vetted, right? I got into an argument with my parents the other night because I voted for Talrico and they voted for Crockett. When they asked why I voted Talrico, I said because his ads, when he speaks, he goes on the news, he speaks to policy. They got mad that I wanted policy guy over just a Trump bad guy. He's also Trump bad. He's also Trump bad. That's the thing. Talrico is not saying Trump good, and neither am I. Anyways, chat, we need to get Chris Rob on my stream and Hassan's stream. He posted that video back September. You should join Hassan's flotilla to Cuba. And what is Jasmine Crockett doing? She's attacking AOC and Bernie. To fight their oligarchy tour. Their fight their oligarchy tour is a good idea, but be drawing too much attention to themselves.
All right, buenos dias, listeners. I'm in Mexico.
You may want to look at Hutch's title for his stream today. It may give you a chuckle. Hutch is a pussy, so he blocked me a long time ago. I've changed my mind about third-party voting. Shut the fuck up, you dumb fuck. No one gives a shit what you've changed your mind about. You're stupid. Jasmine Crockett may be the worst politician in America. Jay Hive turns on Obama. Black folks, are you ready to have that talk? He's not kinfolk. I'll go a step further and say by saying he's the reason we got Trump in 2024. He didn't fully support HRC and he shoved a knife in Biden's back. Don't be surprised if he endorses the main Nazi. He is in lockstep with pod bros. These are the people that will be... You see how she has an Israel flag in her bio? Because this is a fake person that doesn't exist. These are the people that you're going to piss off when you elect Graham Plattner. Isn't that valuable to you, chat? Isn't that something you want to see?
There a while back out of Texas.
Oh, that guy's good, right?
He's terrific. A really talented young man. And it does require a certain confidence in...
Mike, I joined my local DSA chapter. I would consider running in a few years. Okay, if you want to run in a few years, join your local DSA's electoral committee. Start volunteering for any campaigns they're working on. And then, be normal, be presentable, don't be an egomaniac. Show up when you say you're going to show up. Do the stuff you say you're going to do. Make friends and relationships. And then, in the future, look for opportunities to run for office and then make start saying, hey, I'm interested in running in this. Do I have any advice for student government campaigns? Oh, God. That's not real. I didn't really do student government shit. That was the one thing I never did. I found it cringe. I don't know why.
Actual convictions, to debate and have a conversation with somebody who disagrees with you on a whole bunch of stuff.
What makes him so good, though? Because there is something grounded about him that you had it too.
You know what? So in our foundation, a lot of the work that I do is working with young civic leaders, political leaders, journalists, human rights lawyers, not just here in the United States, but around the world. And one of the first things I say to them is, know what you really believe. I think a guy like him, his starting point is let me say what I believe. Now more than ever, what people long for, and the word authenticity gets overused, I think. What people long for is some core integrity that seems absent, just a sense that, you know, the person seems to walk the walk, doesn't just talk the talk.
They're saying he's not kinfolk. Because of Jasmine Crockett? You're going to attack Barack Obama for Joe Biden and Jasmine Crockett. You can't be a real person. You can't be a real person. It's been past time for that talk.
There's this young state rep.
Oh, that's so fucking funny, dude. Is DSA its own full party? No. And the reason why is simple. America has an electoral system that makes third parties non-viable. It's the structure of the system that makes third parties non-viable, not because Americans are just weird and they only like to vote for two parties. It's that two parties are the stable state of our system. And the reason is because of the Electoral College. So you have to be nationally competitive in order to be the president. And so that creates national coalitions. That's why America has the shit system we have, because our Constitution sucks dick.
Oh, and I want to talk to you all about a New York Times focus group that just...
Mike, how can I link you with Chris? My friends on the staff confirm they want to make the connection to get him on the stream. Oh, okay. DM me, and if you go on my Discord, there is a mod named Wizard. Go ahead and DM Wizard as well. We are setting up a candidate process because I realized that I didn't have a good process. So we're going to be setting that up for people who want to reach out. And so we'll be doing that. I was just given a candidacy of the PSL. What's your advice for the party? I would be looking for opportunities where you could go straight up against a very, very weak incumbent in a two-party race. Preferably an incumbent that has like a bad scandal that's about to happen. I was going to run in a non-democratic primary. That's probably what I would do. I'd be looking for an opportunity to run as an independent against an extremely poor performing Democrat. The problem is so many people just vote for any Democrat. That's such a fucking bummer, but it is true. That's why running in the primary is smart, because you get those people. Like, that's why that's the dirty little secret. The dirty little secret is there's a large chunk of people that vote for any Democrat. So if you get the Democratic nomination, you get so many free votes. That's why people do it. I just disagree with, the problem is I don't think campaigns that lose are what raise consciousness. Unless it's a tight race, right? Like if you lose and you scare them, then that has impact. If you lose in a way that people think you might win the next time, that's a good campaign. If you lose in a way where you're completely irrelevant and nobody's threatened and nobody really has to lift a finger and you just look small and marginalized, it's fucking useless. You have to put the fear of God into the people. That should be your goal. You should be running to win. You can run to heighten contradictions, but you need the plausible deniability that you might win. Exactly. No, it makes perfect sense. That's what Zoran did. The reason why Zoran is interesting is because people are like, hey, because DSA has won races before. So what DSA got behind him, it was both a radical candidacy, but also this candidacy has got muscle. And so it was immediately a serious campaign because DSA New York City's branch is a serious political operation. So when it backs someone, everybody sits up and goes, oh, that's what I want DSA to be. I want them to be the ideological enforcers that crack the head of every centrist Democrat. Anytime someone votes with the Republicans against the Democrats, they should be scared of a DSA primary. Every single time somebody's like, I don't like Medicare for all, they should be scared shitless of a DSA primary. Anytime somebody says, I'm voting for the war in Iran, DSA primary. Anytime somebody says shit like this, oh fuck, do I not have it anymore? There was a fucking Democrat senator who was just supportive of like attacking Iran, and I lost it.
Drop today. And this is pretty fascinating stuff because I think we've all felt it. We've all felt that the base of the party is moving towards wanting to fight, wanting to be a full resistance. And then our Democratic leadership, specifically Chuckles and Hakeem and some other players surrounding them, are not putting up a fight at all. Validation at once. Kylie popped this up. A New York Times just did a focus group of Democrats, and this is what they had to say about their own party.
Thank you so much, Chatter. Did he delete it? Did he delete it? Oh, there it is. Asked about a possible U.S. military strike in Iran, Democratic Senator Mark Warner from the deep blue state of Virginia is arguing for war.
Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, he is the vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee. You know a whole lot more than I do about this, sir. What can you tell us?
Well, Katie, I think it's appropriate that the president has all the options on the table.
Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, he is the vice chairman of the Intelligence Committee. You know a whole lot more than I do about this, sir. What can you tell us?
Well, Katie, I think it's appropriate that the president has all the options on the
I think it's appropriate that the president has all the options on the table.
Optimistic that we can pull this off. All right?
Okay. All right.
Let's do it.
Thank you.
All right.
Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Bernie Sanders. Bernard Sanders. All right, let's cover this warmongering shit.
A massive U.S. military buildup is underway right here in the Middle East. Even as the U.S. and Iran are back at the negotiating table, it's clear the United States is preparing for possible military action. Over the course of the last month, more than 250 U.S. military cargo planes have landed in theater, based on a CNN review of flight data. That's a significant uptick in activity, which suggests some of these flights are tied to preparations for potential operations against Iran. That number also includes flights to U.S. bases in Europe, which have traditionally supported U.S. military operations in the Middle East. Those flights involve cargo planes that can carry everything from personnel to vehicles to heavy equipment like air defense systems that we know the United States
US
is
military
deploying in the Middle East. Satellite imagery is also giving us a look at the U.S.'s more muscular posture in the Middle East. This is Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the U.S.'s largest in the Middle East. A month ago, you can see 16 planes on the tarmac. A few weeks later, there are 29 planes, including 7 C-17 cargo planes and 17 KC-135 tankers. Those tankers are used to refuel jets mid-flight, a critical component of any air assault. At this air base in Jordan, 12 F-15 fighter jets recently appeared in satellite imagery. We've also identified the deployment of Patriot air defense systems at that large U.S. air base in Qatar. These would be critical to protecting U.S. assets in the region in the event of Iranian strikes. The U.S. also has plenty of naval assets in the region. A U.S. aircraft carrier and 3 warships arrived in the Middle East last month. A second aircraft carrier strike group is also now on its way. But this is just what we can see from publicly available information. The last time the U.S. struck Iran in June, we also saw a big buildup of military force in Europe and the Middle East. But it was 7 B-2 stealth bombers that delivered the biggest blow in Iran, according to the Pentagon. Those flew in undetected from the United States.
CNN is now reporting this morning that they're saying that Trump is going to strike Iran by this weekend.
Prepared to strike Iran as early as this weekend, sources are telling CNN. But President Trump, who has privately argued for and against strikes, has yet to make a final decision on what to do. This comes amid a significant U.S. military buildup in the region, with another aircraft carrier strike group on the way, and Iran bracing for possible strikes as new satellite images show rapid fortification at several Iranian nuclear facilities, with concrete and large amounts of soil being used to bury key sites. Out front now, Seth Jones, former advisor to the commanding general of U.S. Special Operations Forces in Afghanistan. So, Seth, the military's ready to go, clearly, or they're very close to being so. There are significant assets in the region with this other aircraft carrier strike group on the way. Do you think it is more likely than not that the U.S. will attack Iran?
Well, Brianna, the fact that we've got now 2 carrier strike groups that will be available in the region, and those are costly deployments. And so I think without a breakthrough in diplomatic negotiations, which we have not seen, that I do think that we're seeing a higher risk of the U.S. conducting strikes. And of course, that then leads to this question about what's the U.S. objective here. I suspect that the U.S. objective is probably going to be limited to things like nuclear facilities, potentially Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps sites, rather than bigger objectives like regime change. That is a lot more risky. U.S. doesn't have ground forces there. It doesn't look like it's going to ever put any in. So I think that's sort of where we sit right now.
So when you talk about what that looks like compared to the strikes that the U.S. conducted on Iran's nuclear facilities this last summer. Are you talking about sites in Tehran? Are you talking about sites well outside these nuclear facilities? What are you expecting?
So I think it's important to go back to the Prussian military theorist Karl von Clausewitz, who talks about war as being a continuation of politics or policy by other means. So I think really the goal, the question here is, what's the U.S. political objective with Iran right now? If it is largely about targeting Iran's nuclear sites, then I think we'll see something that's somewhat close to Operation Midnight Hammer. But the U.S. is probably also going to have to go after Iranian air defense capabilities, which the Israelis had already taken care of by the time those bombers conducted strikes. If the U.S. wants to go after Iran's missile capabilities or partner forces, or even start targeting some of the forces that are cracking down on protesters, then you're going to see a bigger target set list. And so, again, this all comes back to the administration's political objectives here.
You mentioned regime change and your expectation that is not the goal here. Is that a needle that is easily threaded? I mean, is there a way that the U.S. objective could, in a way, they could overachieve, for instance, what they may be trying to do? How do they make sure they don't do that?
Well, I think partly it's good.
So here's kind of the issue that I have is that I think that if you're on the American news and America's about to do an unprovoked attack of a foreign country, and you act like it's normal, you are a treasonous traitor to the Constitution, and you should probably be imprisoned. In the Constitution, the president cannot attack a foreign nation but for exigent circumstances. You know, the declaration of war is not a power of the president to insanely fucking Bigfoot around the world attacking random countries. There is no exigency here. Moving troops and ships around the world that takes weeks as evidence that it's not. But Mike, they have electrolytes.
Going to be the target set list that the administration starts going after. So if, again, they're just nuclear sites like the ones you just showed on the satellite imagery, those are pretty limited objectives. But if we see those like Tomahawks, for example, going after Islamic Revolutionary Guard sites or Basij sites or other key political targets, for example, decapitation strikes against Iranian political leaders, starts to move up the escalatory ladder and starts to look much more like weakening the regime and potentially regime change. But again, there are huge risks if the administration goes down that road.
Meanwhile, Iran state media reports that Iran and Russia will stage a joint naval drill in the region beginning tomorrow. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Jim Himes of Connecticut, ranking member on the Intelligence Committee. Do you think an attack is imminent? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, look, I think the president has now conducted a military attack on Caracas, which went flawlessly, and he's conducted a military attack on...
These are our Democrats, bro. 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 Can you imagine a GOP guy coming and saying, Obama did an attack
the tunnels, the nuclear infrastructure in Iran, that also went flawlessly. So right now the president believes that he can do this stuff without much risk, which is, by the way, a very dangerous frame of mind because there's a lot of risk involved. I think that both the United States and the Israelis are aware of the fact that the Iranians are doing carefully what they can to sort of restore what was damaged in the initial attacks. And so, yeah.
They are doing that. They're doing what they can to restore it.
Yeah. Look, they're clearing tunnels. They're restoring electricity. They're doing stuff in tunnels that we can't see. So, I mean, I think they're probably doing everything they can to try to rebuild what was destroyed a number of months ago. So when you say imminent, is it this week? I don't know. The president will be satisfied with something that is cinematic, that makes a big boom and destroys and breaks a lot of stuff. That's what happened in Caracas. He doesn't care so much about the longer questions of regime change, which are much more challenging.
Right, so which raises the question, what would be the objective of a U.S. action against Iran? I mean, if it's not regime change.
Well, remember, this is President Trump, so his objective would be to do something which thrills people cinematically, right? I mean, this is what the president does, right? He appoints people to his cabinet who look good, who play the part. So, you know, he will be very satisfied with a lot of explosions and a lot of broken stuff in Iran. That doesn't lead to regime change. And in fact, you know, I have a lot of Iranian diaspora folks in my district, and they say, you know, we really hope, especially since Donald Trump told the protesters that we would be there, that he is there. The question is, what does it mean to be there? Regime change can't happen just from the air. I mean, you might get lucky, right? You might break enough stuff that the regime collapses. The probability of that is pretty low, though. So when you start talking about regime change, you start looking at Iraq, you start looking at Afghanistan, where we actually had a lot of troops on the ground. And that's a place where the president has never gone.
I mean, he was telling protesters to take over government facilities to get the names of people who were attacking them, that help was on the way.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when
By the way, how do you think you take over government facilities? Just ponder for a second. You have to do a violent attack. So these guys aren't really protesters, they're rebels, which again, a little bit different.
Happened, it sort of broke my heart, right? Because if you're going to say that, and we've done this, we did this in Iraq, right? When a U.S. president sort of said, you know, rebel to the Shiites under Saddam Hussein. And they did, and they got brutally murdered, and we did not show up for them. And there's a long and ugly...
Oh no, America betrayed people? I can't believe it. Can you believe it, chat? America telling people to do violence and then letting them out to dry? I can't believe this is happening.
History of this. So, you know, again, presumably the president, when he said that, he didn't appreciate the fact that they believed that we would be there in force, not just dropping bombs on battleships, because we can do that really easily without a lot of risk. But anyway, when the president said that, it really worried me, because a lot of people could wind up dead.
In terms of an operation over in the skies over Iran, I mean, the Israel, the U.S. had pretty much, by the time the U.S. struck, they had freedom of movement in the skies over Iran. Is that still the situation?
No, it's not. As you might imagine, in a matter of months, the Iranians have worked pretty hard to rebuild their air defenses. So every day that goes by, and this is why your question about is an attack imminent, is, you know, the clock is ticking, right? Every day that goes by, the Iranians improve their air defenses. And make a raid that much more dangerous. And again, the president has gotten lucky, right? He's done these military actions without significant casualties on the U.S. side. So, yeah, there's a clock ticking here. And even if Donald Trump doesn't appreciate all of this sort of, you know, chessboard stuff, the Israelis sure do.
Yeah, Congressman Jim Himes, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you very much.
They love the Israelis over there. That's our Democratic Party. That's the people. Hey. How many of you have ever made a post about Jim Himes on your social media? Be honest. Be honest. Ranking member of the Intelligence Committee. How many times have you made a post? Come on, be honest.
This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
She needs to run. Once again, Epstein survivors use the same social media platforms as the rest of us. They risk re-traumatization and harassment and sharing their stories as they continue to fight for justice. Meanwhile, male content creators in these shared spaces gleefully hash out whether they would vote for Epstein. Don't you think that giving up your leverage this far out from the election would only maintain the status quo from Democrats? I'm tired of the same old, same old. I'd vote third party here. Democrats can still change my mind. I think you are a very weird person, and you should stop saying you would vote for Epstein. That's all I have to say to you. Okay, well, you might be okay with not pushing our Democratic Party politicians to the left by pressuring them with the only leverage you have, but I'm not. I'm saying they have to earn my vote. We could just agree to disagree. And Hassan calling Destiny Epstein doesn't downplay / trivialize their trauma. Destiny is also a predator. So calling another sex predator Epstein or sex pestiny is good. It informs people he's a fucking predator. All right, let's watch this Hutch thing real quick, because it shows how God he's... Did we watch this yesterday? He's dumb as fuck. We don't have to watch it again. He's dumb as fuck. I'd rather talk about the Iran war.
Now to news from the latest round of talks between the U.S. and Iranian officials, which took place in Geneva, Switzerland Tuesday against a backdrop of heightened saber-rattling between the two nations. President Trump's ordered a buildup of U.S. forces in the region, including 2 aircraft carriers, dozens of warships, hundreds of fighter jets, and multiple air defense systems. On Friday, President Trump told reporters regime change in Iran would, quote, be the best thing that could happen, unquote. Shortly after the talks began, Iran temporarily closed the Strait of Hormuz, a key international waterway, and Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned, quote, the strongest army in the world might sometimes receive such a slap that it cannot get back on its feet, unquote. After Tuesday's talks, Tehran's foreign minister cautioned more work still needs to be done on reaching a nuclear deal, but expressed some optimism about the negotiations.
I can say that in this round, there were quite serious discussions and a more constructive atmosphere than in the previous round. Various ideas were raised, and these ideas were seriously discussed, and finally we were able to reach a general agreement on a series of guiding principles. From now on, we will move based on those principles and enter into the text of a possible agreement.
3 unnamed Iranian officials told the New York Times Iran had indicated an openness to suspend nuclear enrichment for 3 to 5 years in exchange for lifting sanctions and the embargo on its oil sales. Vice President J.D. Vance, speaking on Fox News, painted a more mixed picture of the talks.
I think the president has a lot of options. We do have a very powerful military. The president's shown a willingness to use it. He also has a remarkable diplomatic team. He's shown a willingness to use that, too. And so what the president has been very clear with the Iranians, and actually I just talked to Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner this morning about some of their negotiations, is the United States has certain red lines. Our primary interest here is we don't want Iran to get a nuclear weapon.
For more, we're joined in Washington, D.C.
Why don't they want Iran to get a nuclear weapon? Because the moment Iran gets a nuclear weapon, attacking and sanctioning Iran becomes pretty much pointless, and diplomacy is the only option. Maybe they can sanction Iran, but they're already sanctioning it as much as they can, so that's no change. They just won't be able to attack it anymore.
By Trita Parsi, Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, author of several books, including
It's time
Losing
for the
an
best
Enemy,
fam video I made of you. Okay, hold on. Give me a second.
Obama, Iran, and the Triumph of Diplomacy. Trita Parsi, talk about what's happening in Geneva, the U.S. moving in aircraft carriers, one the largest in the world, the USS Gerald Ford, which he had just previously, Trump had, off the coast of Venezuela, where they attacked Venezuela and then abducted the president, Maduro, and his wife.
We have a very dangerous situation because both sides actually believe that a short, intense war may improve their negotiating position. The Trump administration, of course, believes that because of its overwhelming military power that it has now gathered in the vicinity of Iran, it will be able to take out Iran militarily rather quickly and then force it to capitulate. The Iranians have a different calculation. They believe that they have the ability to inflict significant damage on the United States in the short term, including on civilian oil installations in the region, closing down the Strait of Hormuz that would shoot up oil prices. And the initial cost of this to the United States would be so immense. And the United States would recognize that it would have to go for a longer war, which it cannot afford. And as a result, it would get the United States to back off. Essentially, the Iranians are counting on the U.S. having a much lower threshold for pain tolerance than what the Iranians have. And they're basing this partly on how the Houthis fought back against the U.S. for several weeks, and eventually Trump essentially lost interest in it and did not want to have a prolonged conflict and backed off. The difference, however, is the Houthis never managed to kill an American soldier. They tried, but they didn't manage. And we have not been in a situation in which 30, 50, perhaps 200 American soldiers are killed under Donald Trump's watch. So we do not know how his psychology will react to that type of scenario. So this is an extremely dangerous situation in which both sides are actually incentivized to escalate with calculations that are completely contradictory to each other's.
And Trita, what is your sense of if hostilities do resume again and the U.S. attacks, the impact on the wider region, the potential, let's say, worst case scenario for the region?
Well, the region, by and large, with the exception of Israel and perhaps the Emirates, are completely against this for a variety of reasons. And they've played a very crucial role in trying to de-escalate the situation and find a diplomatic solution. The talks in Geneva, for instance, were hosted by the Omani foreign minister at their embassy. You know, you have several factors here. On the one hand, of course, these countries are very worried about the instability. They do not believe that there will be some sort of a clean regime change in Iran, but rather that it will be a state collapse, potentially civil war, massive amounts of refugees flowing into other countries in the region, secessionist movements on the borders that will take advantage of the situation, a scenario that would be very problematic for Pakistan with the Baluchis, for Iraq with the Kurds, for the Turks with the Kurds and with the Azeris. And as a result, they've really stepped in. Now, one thing that is very important to understand is that these factors were present in the past as well. And in the past, some of these countries were favorable towards a military confrontation, such as Saudi Arabia. They've changed their minds, not just because of these consequences, but because of a deeper geopolitical change that has occurred in the region. Right now, Iran is much weakened, and Israel has become much stronger and completely unrestrained. The United States, since the time of the Biden administration, has essentially lifted all constraints on Israel. Israel is allowed to not only violate international law, but also violate American law. And then the governments or the administration of the Biden team, as well as the Trump team, have essentially violated American law by lying on behalf of Israel in Congress. At least the Biden administration did this. This has now created a situation in which many of these countries in the region have now realized that their alliance with the United States does not protect them against Israel. Israel has attacked 7 countries in the region since October 7th, including Qatar, who has some of the best air defense systems.
So when AOC was talking about how we have hypocrisy for international law, we have one standard of law for the West and another standard of law for the global South. That's what she's talking about. And that's what she's saying we need to end. We need to end impunity for Western countries. That is a radical left-wing position for an American presidential candidate and would be the most left-wing position an American president has ever had. And it's not only a left-wing position for an American president, it's a left-wing position globally.
The United States has put there. But apparently those American air defense systems were not activated when the Israelis attacked. So if an alliance with Israel, with the United States, cannot help balance against Israel, then these countries have concluded that they need to create their own arrangement to be able to balance against what they see an increasingly aggressive Israel that is seeking regional hegemony. Iran is not part of that constellation, but it is a de facto buffer between these countries, and this is Turkey, this is Saudi Arabia, this is Qatar, this is Pakistan, perhaps Egypt. It's a buffer between them and Israel. And as a result, they have this added reason to want to prevent this war because they need that buffer. Otherwise, they believe they will be the targets, the next targets of the Israeli state.
And I'm wondering, there's been a lot of media attention in the U.S. and in Europe, interviews with the Iran's exiled crown prince, Reza Pahlavi. I'm wondering your sense of why so much fixation on this almost a relic of past institutions in Iran.
Well, the son of the former Shah has emerged as a voice that some people in the diaspora have lent their support to. He clearly has a tremendous amount of support from Israel. He has closely allied himself with the Israelis. He supported the Israeli war in June. He is calling for military intervention, either by Israel or the United States in this case. And what we have seen over the course of the last 2 decades is a dramatic radicalization of the population as a result of both.
AOC used the rules-based order. She used rules-based order to make fun of it. She said she made fun of the rules-based order. She said, we're not in a post-rules-based order. We're in a pre-rules-based order. In other words, the rules-based order is bullshit. She specifically cited Mark Carney's interpretation as correct. That everybody was shooting cum all over their pants about? She was literally saying it doesn't exist.
The brutality, the repression of the Iranian...
Mike, she used diplomatic speak instead of yelling at the top of her lungs like a fucking ape. She yelled. She actually used words that you have to understand instead of beating her chest and growling.
regime in which it has refused to meet the demands of society. By and large, there's been a couple of exceptions, but in reality, Iran is more closed, more repressive today than it was 20 years ago. And on the other hand, policies driven by the United States and the West, as well as supported by people like Reza Pahlavi, that have sought to sanction the Iranian economy to oblivion, to destroy much of its resources and wealth, and as a result, impoverish the population and drive them to a point of desperation in which they now have become so desperate, not all, of course, but a portion of them, a very loud portion, have become so desperate that they are even yearning for their country to be bombed as a way of getting rid of the current government there. And this is a dramatic development, mindful of the fact that Iran is right next to Afghanistan, right next to Syria and Iraq, and have seen what these military interventions have produced in these countries, which is absolute disasters. But the combination of the repression of the theocracy and the manner in which the sanctions have destroyed the livelihood of ordinary Iranians have driven them to this point of desperation in which
these are the type of people that are going to staff a AOC presidency. People want to throw it away for a modicum of Twitter likes. They don't even make good money from this. They don't even have popular streams, bro. They don't even making money, bro. That's the thing that blows my mind. It's like, I got my 2K like anti-AOC tweet. They can't even get a fucking YouTube channel going, bro. Oh, bro. They got their $1 month. Oh, it's so embarrassing.
some, again, not a majority, but a loud number of people are now calling for this. And Reza Pahlavi has become the main channel for the demand for military intervention.
And we just have 30 seconds, but Trita Parsi, we've talked to so many allies of the protesters who are anti-regime in Iran, but also anti-intervention.
Absolutely. I would still say that there is a majority that are completely against intervention, but their voices are more or less not being heard in the mainstream media. And I think this is very much because of the support of certain elements to elevate the voices for intervention.
Jesse
and we're
Jackson.
seeing exactly what we saw during the Iraq war, in which a large number of pro-intervention Iraqi voices were paraded through mainstream media in order to give the impression that not only is this something that is supported by the overwhelming majority of the Iraqi society, but also that this is the morally right thing to do. And I find that to be very, very questionable.
Trita Parsi, I want to thank you for being with us, Executive Vice President of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft, author of several books, including Losing an Enemy, Obama, Iran, and the Triumph of Diplomacy. Thanks for watching Democracy Now! On YouTube.
I just wish people really stopped. Like, they get so addicted to extreme rhetoric. They get so addicted to it. And their minds become rotten. And it's fine. Like, I use extreme rhetoric against the people that deserve extreme rhetoric. But then people get any disagreement and they start using extreme rhetoric. And then they start using these, tendacious, connections. These, so-and-so did this, which connects them to that, which connects them to that. And that person's bad, so they're all bad. Like, these like this kind of self-isolating rhetoric. It's so weird and performative. And like, I'm grappling with it now because like, I'm trying to see who's stupid as fuck. It's just the attention economy. Yeah, but I'm better at it than they are. Tendentious is what I was trying to say, chat. Tendacious and tenuous, which is like, AOC is actually a Zionist. That's a very bullshit understanding of history. I'm trying to figure out what to even say at this point. Somebody who just wrote an article pillaring AOC said they were really interested in Mark Kelly and Ruben Gallego as candidates. Wow, bro. 35% progressive Ruben Gallego and 31% progressive Mark Kelly. Damn, great choice, man. Great fucking choice. Meanwhile, you look at AOC, and AOC has a 100% sponsoring correct, 96% correct voting record. It's basically the same as Ilhan Omar. I think Ilhan Omar abstained on one additional bill or something like that. Kamala Harris was only in Congress for 2 years, guys, so it's not really worthwhile to look at. AOC's been in office for 8. So she has a very, very long voting record. And she's just consistently been correct. This is her history of AOC's voting record of being on the right side. She voted against BDS being banned, voted against Israel. I mean, it's just, you can just go through it all. All right, everybody, I'm going to call it there. I'll link you to this. Let me link you to that if you want to take a look on the left tracker. If you just want to get a sense of how much different they are. And people being like, oh, Elizabeth Warren would have a really high score too. I think Elizabeth Warren has a 90. 91. And her voting record score is 88%. There aren't really a lot of good senators. Chris Van Hollen has a 74. All right, everybody. I'm just going to call it there. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. John Fetterman? Oh, sure. His is like fucking terrible. 21%. The worst senator is Jackie Rosen, as far as Democrats. Nevada has some of the worst Democratic senators on the planet. They fucking blow. They're basically Republican. And then Mark Warner, the warmonger we saw earlier. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for hanging out. Hope I wasn't too annoying with my conversations about Plattner and AOC. I don't plan on having this every day. It's just, I'm pondering the way the online left has become kind of like embarrassing and and I'm wondering if it's just Twitter is like that, and maybe I just need to give up. But these spaces are becoming dumber and dumber, and that might be something that needs to be fixed. All right, everybody, stay safe. Solidarity forever. That's how socialism wins. I'll see you tomorrow.